Hey everybody, welcome back. This is the big finale episode where we're going to touch on the end of Star Trek Picard season 1. Finally, this shit show has come to an end. We're going to get going in this. This is in Arcadia you go part 2. And it is about as big a shit show as we envisioned it would have been. And some of my predictions and our predictions came true because, of course, as we've said before, this show is written for children and everything is telegraphed in front of you literally by miles. Also, half of this season was absolutely pointless.
Boy, was it.
To the resolution. I hated this episode, but I just want to note that this entire series is stupid. And I'll touch on that at the very end on the exact reason why it's stupid.
You finally come to my position on it, huh?
Not that it didn't need to exist, but the entire premise of this season or series was absolutely stupid. And they have absolutely nowhere to go from here. So we'll kick this off. We pick up right from last week. So we break into... I guess we zoom in on the Borg cube to see a person running across the landscape. Again, it's one of those really nice cinematic shots that I've talked about before. We don't know who this is at first. There was a lot of drama left off at the end of last episode where pretty much everyone in Picard's vicinity at the time betrayed him, right? Soji has gone full Reploid evil eye robot kind of thing.
Reploid?
Aggie.
She's got the Maverick virus.
She's got the Maverick virus. Aggie has gone evil for no reason. Stupidly, the only reason Aggie killed Maddox and goes evil before is to set up the possibility that she might go evil here, but it's always been stupid. It was stupid when she originally went evil just because she saw some visions. And now she goes evil again. And so we get this nice landscape shot of someone running to the Borg cube. Now, it's a nice way to enter episode 2 of the season finale because you don't know who this is. When I first watched it on my first run through, I was hoping or assuming that it would have been Soji, right? She would have been faking it. Someone in this situation was faking turning on Picard because 2 of them wouldn't turn on one character, right? It's too much to work through plot-wise. You always have one person that turns on the other. It's not a whole group of people that turn on someone else.
It has to actually be one less than the number that apparently do it.
Yeah, you can't have then 2 antagonists there at once. I mean, you can in a series, but you can't in an episode, especially a season finale. So one of them can't be bad. So I assumed it would be Soji because she's the only one with the magic speed powers of Data, right? That could run from wherever the hell they are to the Borg cube, which can't be a short distance. They landed quite a bit of ways. But as we find out...
And water, apparently.
And water. What we find out is that it is our Romulan friend who was let go at the end of last episode 2. He runs back to the Borg cube, walks right in the front door. This Borg cube has stopped looking like a Borg cube on the inside and now just looks like a IKEA with the lights off. It just... XP's hanging around. Everyone's going about their business, chilling. They don't seem to be too worried about much of anything. Even the last episode, they made a big deal about getting the defenses on the cube working to help.
They're sitting there drinking green stuff.
They're sitting there just hanging out. They're sitting on the floor. The next scene we get is literally Eleanor and Seven just sitting chit-chatting about nothing. And the entire point of Seven bringing this cube before, it got taken down by the Orchids was to help Picard stop the Romulan fleet that's coming. That makes perfect sense for her, what she knows, right? We talked about how she left all those 10 million Borg floating in space. But the idea of having a Borg cube would, in theory, the way Star Trek has been set up, even the odds, even against 200 warbirds. Let's say they're not all, the top of the line warbirds. Let's say they're ships. But a Borg cube could fuck up, a sizable fleet. So
Hell, it
the
fucked up
idea,
what 40 ships at Wolf 359,
yeah,
and that was
without even a
one.
scratch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like this thing,
Hmm.
a single cube has ended species
Hmm.
and wiped fleets out. So
Straight
the
up.
idea is really cool, works. Last episode, she says, "What do you need?" Remember? And he's
Hmm.
like, "Long range sensors." Boom, they got it in a snap. Then they
Did it
said they're
matter?
working on getting like the weapons or something, like because you need help. The first time we see him here, they're just relaxing. They're just hanging out. They're doing nothing. They're like resting on there, and Elnor and Seven have this little back to back because now they're besties, of course. Because no one knows how to write this Elnor character because he doesn't belong in this series.
No, he doesn't.
Now that we know there's going to be a season 2, I guess the idea was, hey, it's the problem of we're going to insert a character now, but we're going to actually develop him later, right?
You
As
can do
opposed,
that if like your first season shows enough promise,
yeah,
but
you can do that, but you
what
also
promise
still
is there?
have to give that character something to do, right? When you
Uh-huh.
introduce him,
Like
it's
Worf was like that in season 1.
yes, yeah,
Even.
something like that. But he
Like,
was still like,
we don't know what we're gonna do, but
we don't know what
we
we're gonna
want
do.
to
We're gonna
team
do
up.
something. He's just a Klingon. He's out of
Mhm.
his element in that situation. But it could have gone either way. It
Mhm.
wasn't like TNG introduced Worf in a Worf centric episode.
No,
They didn't go to like Quonos to pick up, you know what I mean, to pick up Worf,
they
or
didn't go to Earth to pick him
right.
up from the
They didn't
Rajenko.
go to Starfleet Academy graduation and pick him up and beam him on board. He was just there, right? Um,
Mhm.
and so if Elnor was just a part of it, okay, fine, later down the road. But
If he was like
remember,
there with the housekeepers that Picard had.
right? He had an episode dedicated to him,
Mhm.
which sets up like, oh, this guy is going to be something important, which he hasn't been. He might somewhere down the road, but he's been absolutely worthless this entire season.
Like nonsense. He's been like comedic relief
Yeah, he
at
turns
best.
from like the intro where we get him, where I thought it was actually kind of cool. Like you got it, we still made fun of it, but it's like,
Mhm.
okay, you got this cool ninja character, right?
Yeah.
You're setting up your team of like rogues, right? And so you got the guy, maybe he'll be
You
the
can
one in the vents and
he
night
he
stuff and
he
sneaky.
crits on backstab and
Yeah, he's going to be the one that's kind of shady in the shadows that's going to jump in and out. Okay, cool, whatever.
he never does it.
He never does it. He chops one person up and then he becomes comedic relief towards the end when it doesn't fit the story. Um, it doesn't make any sense. So that's how we're introduced to our Romulan getting back on the ship. Um, Seven and I have here on my notes, just the first time I was watching this, and my initial notes are just saying, here's Seven and Elnor setting up their spinoff show.
Oops, sorry.
It's essentially all they're set up for, right? Because he's
Yeah.
like, hey, I'm an XB. Why don't I just blow myself in the head? And then
Oh
Elnor
yeah,
goes,
that's right.
because I
That's
like
what she
you.
says.
It's like,
Where's
because I'd miss you or something like that. And I'm like,
where's Janeway, Chakotay, or the Doctor?
yeah, it's like, Seven, you have a crew.
You,
You have you. I know you're an XB, but you literally have a family that was your arc.
the entire point made was that Chakotay and her have a relationship later.
Yes, that's canon in at least one of the timelines, but even in
Mhm.
this one, it was hinted at. But the idea is that Seven's arc wasn't that she became human, was that she got a family because remember she was assimilated at age 6,
Yeah,
and so she never,
that
while
gets brought up
human,
again
yeah,
in
it
this
gets brought up
episode.
here. She was human, but she never got to experience being human.
Yeah,
Right? So like when Picard gets
like
sent
growing
back to
up.
being human, he was grown up. He was a man. So
Mhm.
he goes back to being human. When that happens to another Borg, they go back to what they were. When Annika gets turned back into Annika from 7, she's got
She's
nothing.
lost. She's lost her entire life.
Yeah, she's lost everything because she has the only thing she can go back to is 6 years old. I can't do that. I'm like 30 now. What are you talking about? This is
Yeah.
weird. Um, so to say that to Elnor is like just stabbing everything about Voyage in the back. Everything about Seven in Picard is
Mhm.
like make sure she is so far removed from Voyager, like it never happened.
Yeah.
The only mention of it is, yeah, I came from the Delta Quadrant. I think it was mentioned like once. When they were talking to someone or on that,
Yeah.
Blade Runner planet. It's like, oh, the Borg from this and from the Delta Quadrant. And again,
They have more stuff in them that you can dig
remember,
out with your scalpels.
it was a real big thing about the Borg trade and
Yeah.
trading in parts, which gets dropped like a sack of bricks. And
I
is
mean,
never
that I can
mentioned again.
understand because there's an entire Voyager episode where that's like the plot. They
Yeah.
wanted to get her Borg nanomachines.
And so,
to
and
s-
it's real telling because Jerry Ryan, and we talked about this a little bit before. Remember,
Mhm,
we talked about it early on how she couldn't find her voice, and she said this in interviews. She
mhm.
couldn't find the voice of Seven, and it hits me two ways. One is it's legitimately she can't find her voice because it's been so long since she ended Voyager,
Mhm.
but also because it's a whole new writing staff, people who know nothing or care anything about Voyager. Clearly, the way they're doing things. And so I think her statement there has a double meaning to it. Like, I can't find it as an actress because it's been, 14 something years or whatever, but also because what they're writing for me is something fucking Seven would never do.
Well, here's the funny thing. Have you played Star Trek Online recently?
No, not recently.
They have a featured episode up, which is you remember the Excalbians, right?
Yes.
So the entire point is you go there, and they're like, we need more examples of morality, like which is better, good or evil, and it's a great little quest line. It's like two quests. Um, the problem is they pair you up with two of the biggest derailments humanly imaginable, Michael Burnham and
And Seven,
Picard.
right?
Yeah. What's funny is there's parts where you can hear Jerry Ryan getting back into the character as she was on like Voyager almost,
And not here.
and not like Picard. Yeah,
And not like a Laura Croft version of Seven of Nine
yeah.
here. Yeah, it was I mean, and this is still before, of course, the cold open here. So we're still introing this. And I'm already just annoyed of what's going on. But right after that, this is all a background because our Romulan boy is sneaking aboard the cube
Hmm.
for something. We don't really know. He's trying to get something. He passes Seven, hides sneakily because apparently nobody can see anything, and there's no. This is this Borg cube has longer range sensors, but it doesn't have internal sensors. I mean,
Well, of course not.
Because that's only logical that you have the advanced long range sensors to see 200 warbirds, however many
Look,
light years in warp, but
look, man. The Borg contractors, they're on break.
they're
You
on
can't
break.
force.
They all
You
got
can't
sent home
force
from
them.
the virus. No one's working, so they got through
Mhm.
it. So he goes through and he finds his sister,
Romulan Cersei. Yeah.
Romulan Cersei. And we talked about this last time because I asked the question in the
What
episode
happened to
where
her?
she kills Hugh,
Mhm.
where the fuck did she go? And you said
She
she
teleports
beamed out of
somewhere.
there. And I was like,
I didn't know
okay,
where.
that legitimately makes some sense. I saw the beaming thing, but I'm like,
Yeah,
where
you
did
can
she
see it.
go? Because the next shot from that episode was a Romulan, the Romulan fighters
Yeah,
leaving the
Warbird or
cube,
whatever.
right? Leaving and
Mhm.
warping away. And you're like, oh, okay, she went with them. No, she apparently warped to her own private little quarters on the cube that no one could find,
Mhm.
uh, like the Queen's room or something, because apparently everyone has their own fucking private study on this cube that is cut off from the rest of the cube. I didn't get it. Seven isn't stupid. She was incredibly angry. She knew who this lady was and was tracking her on the cube at the time. And she just teleported somewhere else on the cube.
Mhm.
Whatever. Fuck it. It's
Yep.
stupid. The brother and sister are reunited.
Mhm.
I don't give a shit. I was at this point, I'm already over it.
She asked him if he had sex with any robots.
Yes. He says, not yet, but I killed one. And she's like, oh, well, that's something. We actually learned later that he's not Jat Vash, but he
No,
was a Jat
he's
Vash
like,
washout
yeah.
because apparently it's like West Point or something. You go in, you just
That's
can't
the best
hang.
of the best. They're the MIB.
Yeah, it's like the MI, it's like the Navy SEAls of the Romulans.
That's the
Like,
best of
sorry,
the
but
best,
you've
sir.
washed out. But because they're family, she kept them along. Whatever.
Mhm.
It's a little point that's stupid. We cut back to Picard, who we know is in confinement, playing with a CGI butterfly,
Mhm. A
a really
completely
bad CGI
pointless,
butterfly,
a
completely
completely
pointless.
pointless
Uh,
CGI butterfly.
it, it, it's dumb, but he's just like, "Oh, you're free. I wish I was free." Just a silly line.
There's also the fact that they spent like $30K on like Shutterstock video last week for that little montage of like fetuses and robots doing shit.
Yeah, they did. There's a lot of needless this a lot of this series we were talking about this leading up to the finale, right? The
Hmm.
episode where things slowed down and it became a dialogue episode. We're like, hey, they're saving their budget for the big two-part finale. It's not out of the ordinary. A lot of that with sci-fi shows or big budget
Hmm.
things tend to do that, right? There will be a couple episodes during the season that slow things down to save money. And we
Or
had
they'll
that
just
here.
be a bottle using sets that they already
Yeah,
have.
really something real simple or something
Mhm.
like that, just to save that extra cash that the director or someone wants for the finale. We
Star Trek's
get that
literally
here.
famous.
We get that, but it's a lot of it feels like they had so much money
Hmm.
that they just started throwing things in there stupidly.
Yeah, like the
You know what I
butterfly.
mean? Like you're at that point where you get so much money, you're not going to say no to it, but you're like, well, I have too much, so might as well throw pointless CGI scenes or cut or flashback things or interstitials for no reason that don't have any point just to have them. Or hey, we have this extra money, why not have uh, some drones now flying about the Borg cube for no reason that we've never seen before?
Yeah.
You just random wasted money. So we see Soji come in to check on Picard. And this is cut with Aggie looking at Soji going in to see Picard. I don't know where the fuck she is. Apparently, her office is overlooking his entrance. None of this place makes any sense. The layout for this,
I'm sure the
whatever
layout makes sense if
it's
you
just
were to
not the way
walk
it's
into it,
shot.
but
Yeah,
no.
it's like, was Aggie by Picard's store? Was in she in her life? But it's there to set up them. One of them is an evil.
Oh
So
yeah.
Soji goes in, talks to Picard.
Excuse me one
Picard gives
second.
one of his long-winded speeches about, you know, something. I can't remember because he gives so many stupid speeches this episode that it drove me absolutely insane. Because if you remember TNG, watching TNG, a lot of the episodes in the season were standard episodes. Something would happen, they would rectify it. There'd be maybe 10 seconds at the end of the episode where they say something and they move on to the next episode, right? Maybe Riker gives a funny little quirk. Maybe Data ends on a joke. Maybe Worf said something. But every once in a while, when it needed, Picard would give a speech. And we talked about this before, but he wouldn't do it every fucking episode because when you give these Shakespearean sonnets every episode, it gets fucking annoying.
Well, like one of the episodes that's really famous because it's gotten used in that little remix of like Captain Jean-Luc. It was a whole thing on YTMND.
Oh, yeah.
It's that little bit that he's telling Wesley to tell the truth.
Oh,
A
yes.
Starfleet officer
Academy. Yeah.
is held to the truth, be that a personal truth or a held belief or the scientific truth or philosophical truth.
It's all
That
about the
stuff.
truth.
Mhm.
When it was impactful,
Mhm.
when it felt necessary, but they wouldn't end like a mission to like Delta Gamma 1 where nothing happened and Picard would end the series that episode on a long-winded speech about the morality of not murdering synths. You know what I mean? Or the
Yeah.
morality of something or why, the Holocaust happened and why it doesn't need to happen again when the
Mhm.
episode wasn't about anything to do with that. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
He would just be like, or he would give a nod or he would say something quirky and then they'd move on. This episode, he has like almost every time he talks, it's a goddamn speech. So they have their little discussion. He says, hey, don't do this. Shut down the generators. And this generator that we find out makes no sense because apparently it's like how you build a city in Sim City. It's just like this liquid metal. It's a fucking T1000 thing being built on its own.
They're reticulating splines.
It didn't make sense at first. I looked at it. It's like, is this the Borg cube parts fixing themselves? What is this? She just hit some buttons, and like liquid metal starts growing for no reason.
Like all those builder video games do it. It's
Yeah,
so bad.
we're not explained we were told. It was just like a communications relay, and I was like, okay, so they're gonna send a signal to their robot gods. I understand that. That makes sense. But apparently, they're also building this transceiver thing out of liquid metal that has never been explained how it's being built or where they even got the capability to make this liquid metal build this thing. Because the next scene we see is it's growing outside, and now Aggie's
Consumes.
outside. Yeah, looking at this structure, this helix structure, literally being built. It's like a honeycomb system, like building itself up. And I'm just like, that seems
Not
far
Star Trek.
more complicated than necessary. Like, I understand signal, but that's fucking stupid. So then we hit to the cold open, and now it's all the introduction that we got leading into this finale. It was a little bit slow, but you know where things are headed. Catch your breath. We start back exactly where we started before the cold open, back to the Borg cube. It's logically, it's a very weird cut again, because you started your cold open on this and now you're going back to it after you went back to another place. It's a needless jump. It just feels like in editing things were moved around. So we cut back to our Romulan buddy and his uh Romulan sister, who are now apparently totally completely different skin tones. I don't know if it was the lighting or if it was a color correction, but she
It's because
is
he's getting way more sun while he's shooting stuff. I'm sure.
probably because he looks like a normal human now, and she looks like Data
Ultra
almost in
pale.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the makeup she has on. I don't know if that was like a subtle intentional nod thing or whatever, but they don't look right together.
Well, I mean, they're both from the UK, so they probably burn really easy.
They probably weren't. He looked like a normal person. So he
Yeah.
goes in to pick up some Borg bombs. And I have, again, more problems. Because he doesn't go into the Borg cube to make Borg bombs or
Just to
make
get 'em.
bombs. He doesn't go in and fabricates them in some sort of fabrication matrix, which would make more sense, right? It's the Borg. They do have maturation chambers and matrix things. You can make some bullshit up that, hey, everyone else has replicators. Why the fuck not the Borg? I
Well, I
get
mean,
it.
shit. The
Whatever.
replicator on La Serena is literally a 3D printer that they bought and just stuck in there.
Oh yeah, it
No
literally
redressing.
is. It's just set dressing. So I would get that. But no,
No, they
he
didn't
just
even
goes.
redress it. It's just like the
It's
3D
just
printer.
that put into the machine, into the
Mhm.
room. So he picks up spatial charges that apparently the Borg now are just the army, I guess. They have phasers and grenades and artillery. Like, what the
Why would
fuck?
they need them?
Why would the Borg have spatial charges?
Their arms have all the weapon in them.
They are the weapon.
Yeah.
They don't shoot you. They don't fire phasers. From the beginning, the Borg walk up to you, they die, they adapt their shields, and then they stick you in the fucking neck.
I mean, they'll shoot you if you've become a big enough pain in the ass, but
They'll shoot you with like their ships, and there have been extra like legends materials outside of stuff in video games and other things where the Borg have come across someone they can't assimilate, species 8472 in particular, where they have to find other means to deal with them.
we have to arm ourselves.
Right. But it's certain cubes in certain situations. This cube that was just a regular old cube, apparently, we talked about, now has a room, an armory. Can you see the Borg, the way they move, how slowly they work? Arm a grenade and even have the capability of tossing it?
No.
Have you ever seen a Borg raise their arm above the shoulder?
Fuck no, because they're in all that crap.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
that's not their threat. Like,
I mean, I think the only time you ever see anything close to someone with their arm above their head that's a Borg is the Queen. Like when she's making some grand gesture or whatever.
oh yeah, when she's doing her Shakespearean thing and ruining the Borg in that film, when the
Yeah.
Queen is introduced. But like, why? Why do this? Why go back to the Borg cube to get grenades?
Because
Like,
Romulans,
know
man.
they're there. It's not like he went back to find his sister and then she gives it to him or something. Like, they're there. They're on the ship. It's fucking stupid. So they have this little, oh, I'm never gonna see you again. Oh, don't tell me I love you, goodbye, and this thing, and he leaves. He's gone. So as soon as he leaves, As soon as he leaves, literally when he turns the corner out of the one entrance of this Borg cube, because they butchered all their money on CGI, and there's only one entrance to this cube, it's just a hallway. As soon as he turns right to leave from frame, Elnor casually walks up and leaves behind him.
Yeah, following him.
Now, I am not a military person by any means. I'm not a Navy SEAL. I'm not a tracker. I'm not a government agent. I've done Boy Scouts, and that's about it. But if I was in a hurry and concerned about my well-being, and somebody was tailing me 3 feet away from me, pretty sure I would notice.
Yeah.
He literally walks out right behind him.
Especially someone as, paranoid as Romulans tend to be.
As our Romulan buddy who is already clearly on alert for everything. Elnor walks right behind him, walks out within seconds, like you've seen him. So then we jump from there back to Rios' ship. And remember, Rios and Raffi were left to hang out with the ship to try to get it functional in case they need it for when the Romulans come, right?
And Golden Soji gave them like a device.
And Golden Soji, yeah, gave them
I don't
a
remember her
gift
name.
last episode. And here's the only thing I wrote is they have this little kind of ocarina looking thing. It's like a brass knuckles.
Mm-hmm.
And the intermix thing is busted, right?
Mm-hmm.
You hear that all the time in Star Trek. It doesn't mean anything, but it's not working. They need to get it working because nothing else would work without it.
Yeah.
They can't fix it. It's fused. The intermix is fused. I could have used the replicators to replicate one, but because the intermix is out, I can't use the blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
And so he picks up what I wrote down here because I hadn't gone back to see the other episode my first time around when I was doing my notes. And I just wrote, and I'll quote this verbatim, when he picks it up. Well, I guess I should preface this. Well, they pick it up, and the idea of this stupid thing is that it fixes anything, right?
Yeah. You just need to imagine it.
It's a MacGuffin.
It's stupid. It's
the stupidest thing that's ever been introduced into Star Trek I've ever seen.
It looks like a prop. It looks like a prop they bought out of, like, I don't know, fucking Staples or whatever. No.
I wrote right here, and I quote me on this. What the fuck is this Dollar Tree looking magic bath toy thing? It's what I wrote the first time I saw it.
It looks like a whiteout tape dispenser that they drilled holes into.
It looks super cheap.
Yeah.
And then I wrote under it, before realizing what it actually was, is that this is just a fucking sonic screwdriver. This thing just fixes anything.
Mm-hmm.
You just imagine what you want, and it does it.
So I sent you the message, magical bullshit technology ruins the setting even worse than it already has been.
No, this ruins everything.
It ruins everything.
It ruins literally everything because this technology still exists, whatever this is, because this toy they have, and this series is going to continue, this toy they have now exists. So when we get back to season 2 next year, whenever it comes around, every time something goes wrong, you're going to hear us in the podcast say, well, why didn't you use your magical toy? Because you've literally set something up that destroys everything else, because it gets used even more. Like they use it more this episode to the point of stupidity, right?
Oh,
so
boy,
right here, and we'll get to that one, but right here, what we learn from it is that it can do whatever you think it does, and we're given it in terms of repairs, right?
Shaka when the walls fell.
Yeah, we're given the idea that, okay, if you don't know about this huge sci-fi world, let's just say maybe this thing just works when you need something done quickly or fixed. And so he fixes the intermix thing by thinking about it real hard. And apparently fixing the intermix is just fixing a very small corded, patch cable.
Yeah.
So it fixes it. This is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. It's absolutely stupid. And it's set up here because it's going to be used again later in even more stupid ways. One, it breaks the whole universe apart because this is we don't know what this thing really is or where it came from, but the assumption is that the synths made it, right?
Or Dr. what Alton
or
Ingo's.
Soong made it, or they got it from something.
Yeah.
Regardless, it exists, which means more of them can exist. You can do more with them. It breaks Star Trek at its core.
Why do you need any tools whatsoever when you can just have this?
Why do you need anything whatsoever when you have this fucking brass knuckle looking smoke pipe thing? Nothing else is ever needed, right? And you know what's going to happen.
I just
they're
remembered
going
something,
to
but
just
I'll let you finish this first.
they're just never going to use it again.
Mm-hmm.
They're just going to ignore it like it never existed.
Oh, straight up.
They're just going to be like, we're just going to move on from that.
Ah, shit, man, I lost it under the couch. I can't find it.
Yeah, something like that. So Rios imagines that this thing fixes a torn cable, which literally you could have fixed with duct tape, I guess. Whatever. Fuck it. And everyone's like, whoa, magic time. Haha, our ship's fixed. It was literally one cable. They repaired a frayed cable. And the ship works. So then they hear shit, which it's funny in a little bit, but they hear something. It's like, I know the sound of that. And so they go investigate, but we cut back to the compound. And Aggie is there dressed like Soong, and they're chit-chatting, and he's like, what you're going to do here, your sacrifice you're making, is such a motherly thing. It's what their mother would do. I still don't know what sacrifice she's talking about.
Oh, because when the
is
robot
she gonna die or something, right?
Gonna die.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
or something. It's not made very clear.
It's a very asshole line for him, actually.
It's a very dickish thing to say. And look, he's not the bad guy. I'll go right out and say it.
They try and play it like I was wrong.
Yeah, they try. He's not. The show is very clearly stating Soong is not the bad guy. Just weird. He's just a Soong, is what they say later on.
The entire end of the last episode and the first half of this episode, he's just a dick.
Yeah, he's just a dick. He's like, he's an acquired taste. No, he's just a straight up asshole. And then Aggie, which for some reason has now become the person that's going to do all the cursing for some reason, to make her tough or whatever. And he's like, oh yeah, you're their mother. Congrats, you're great. He walks out. She gets all pouty face and says, I'm not their goddamn mother, asshole. And I'm just like, okay. So that's weird. So now Aggie is shown that she's now the good person. And it's just Suki is literally just an asshole. But she's just like, I'm not their mother, asshole. I was like, I didn't know you were. I totally forgot last episode. I guess you're going to do something. This is stupid. Then we cut right back to Rios. And this is what I talk about the editing in this episode in particular. It's just kind of all over the place because you have like so many plot lines going that are unneeded, but you have to jump between them before getting everyone back together.
Yeah.
We jump back to Rios, which, remember, that left us on a cliffhanger where I said, I know the sound of that. Whatever. There was like a dinking sound. And I was like, uh-oh, this is going to be serious. Maybe that's the sign of a warp core breach, which warp cores haven't even been discussed in this series. And warp cores in Star Trek, The Next Generation, and through online and everything are vertical cores. They've been designed that way, unless you're a shuttlecraft, which has limited range of capabilities.
About the only one
shuttlecrafts, unless it's the Danube class, shuttlecrafts can't go to warp.
Yeah, that's true. The only one I can think of where it's possibly on its side is in the original series.
Yes, but they left that behind during the refits because the technology changed. They went from like duotronics to whatever. And so the warp cores went vertical. Yeah. And so I guess it's that little hexagonal thing shaped in the back. And I guess it's an homage to the original series, which is cute, but it doesn't make sense in the technical space of how Star Trek The Next Generation was built and created around a literal vertical warp core.
To be fair, the inside and outside of the ship looks like shit.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a Star Wars ship.
Yeah.
So they cut back, and Rios is like, oh, I know that sound. That sound is rocks being thrown at a ship. I don't know how he knows the sounds of rocks being thrown at a ship.
He probably pissed off some kids once.
I don't know how if you just you parked in the wrong neighborhood one time. The only thing I know of Rios is that he literally served on a Federation starship. So I'm not sure how often a Federation class exploratory vessel out in space gets rocks thrown at it, but that's neither here nor there. In a very badly done green screen scene, Romulan boy teams up with our heroes because we want to blow up the thing. I don't understand his motivation going on from here forward.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get what his thing is because he wants to kill them all, tells his sister he's going to kill them all, but then he changes his mind and says, "I need your help to go blow up the transceiver to save us all." And then they have this little conversation team up where we get an exposition dump about more bullshit Romulan lore about why we need to team up.
Are we getting to that right now?
Yeah.
Okay, I hate it. I hate it because it is transparently just Norse mythology.
Yeah,
like
and
they filed the serial numbers off.
Yes,
they didn't even fucking try.
And it's Gamad. He talks about Gamad or something, and because of the way his accent is, all I thought was at first was like, Gamera? Did he say Gamera's coming? Is that the big baddie? Because I'll be interested if Picard ends with fucking kaiju battle at the end. I'd be really cool to see Gamera in turtle form just shooting up with his fucking rocket things.
Gamera.
So they talk for a little bit, and Rios literally mentions Ragnarok, right? Which, okay, that makes sense. I think in the modern day, people would know the concept of Ragnarok, at least in a basic form, if not from history and studying it in school.
But it's so fucking transparently.
Right, it's transparent, but at least they would know it through the Marvel movies, right? So you would say Ragnarok, and people are like, okay, I kind of know.
That's the point I was going to make. Like, if you watched a Thor movie,
yeah,
this is like shit. They literally they didn't even try.
Yeah, so him mentioning that, I was like, okay, I get it. We're writing to a very simple audience, we think. But then at the same sentence, he mentions Judgment Day.
Mm-hmm.
He says Ragnarok. The line is, because I wrote it, you mean like Ragnarok or Judgment Day? But he doesn't mean Judgment Day as in like something special. He means it in the Terminator 2 canon. And I wrote here is like, is T2 canon? Did Judgment Day, is that part of the Star Trek universe? Did that happen?
Give me your clothes, your boots, and
did Cyberdyne actually exist? Because he says Ragnarok or Judgment Day. I guess the idea is that it's like the Christian version of like the end of days, but like in a pop culture reference, Ragnarok and Judgment Day are just two parts of two movies. It's stupid.
Yeah.
And I literally wrote here, because they go on, it's just gobbledygook talk. They just literally replace words from like Norse mythology to fake Romulan mythology, and I just put the Djibouti dub eats the bones of babies or something. I don't know. I stopped paying attention. They start mentioning like made up words and like Gamera and Jabadoobies.
We'll blow the horn that brings the end of everything.
And everyone that mentions it in the scene says it differently because they're all from different parts of the world, and it's just bad. And so as that's happening, Elnor decides to show up like a secret ninja and put a sword to his throat, even though he's been behind him the whole goddamn time. He's been following him to the cube and to here, and was hiding out enough, and then got snuck onto Rios' ship, and now wants to chop his head off, but can't because now they're all on the same side. And then he has the joke for the rest of this series or this episode of, I don't like you. I don't like you. I still don't like you. I don't like you. Whatever. Okay. We cut back to the compound again, where one of the dead synths is being looked over by Soong. And he's like, Aggie comes in because she needs access to files, some bullshit. And she's like, what are you doing?
He's like, for some reason, like her eye is making it hard to download her shit.
Yeah, it's very strange, but he's like, oh, I'm just trying to download her memory engrams, something we've seen before in Star Trek, whatever, and to save them, to give to her sister, right? And I was like, oh, okay, that seems like a nice thing to do, and pass it on because they're synths, who knows how they work, but whatever. He says like it's hard, like it's for some reason, whatever stabbed her in the eye or some magical thing is making this difficult. Can you stay here and take a look at it while I go and unlock your files.
Mhm.
That doesn't make a lot of sense
No.
in technical terms, because how the fuck would Aggie know what to do if something goes wrong? How would she know something's going wrong? Do you just want her to stand and look at a loading bar like this is a video game? What do you
We're
want her to
talking
do?
somebody that wasn't confident about operating a transporter. So
Yeah, I mean, you just met this woman. She doesn't know this equipment. It's like, hey, you want to overlook this data transfer of brains? And so he leaves, and then Aggie just grabs this other chick's eyeball and rips it out. Shoop, takes it on out.
Star Trek, the eyeball gore porn.
Very
series.
Star Trek. And again, and you know exactly what it's going to be used for, because it's another cliche of, I need the eyeball to access areas of a room. It's fucking just like paint by numbers.
That shit in Minority Report?
Yes. You can literally name any like generic sci-fi thing that has stolen from like Philip K. Dick. I mean, it's just we need the eye. It was in like fucking like the handprint scene and like Spaceballs is there.
Oh yeah.
Where he needs a hand. You know, the jokes in like, oh no, I need access. Let's get their eyeball or get a handprint, whatever. It's stupid.
There was a terrible alien movie where it was spit.
Yeah. It's dumb. You know what it's for. We cut back to Elnor and the crew, who are now outside around a campfire.
This is where they actually have all the talk about the mythology bullshit.
Yeah, they talk more about it here because Elnor's being filled in on it. We need to fill him in. But like,
he's like, it's just a story.
Oh, it's much more than a story. No, it's a story. Shut the fuck up.
It's a story.
It's dumb.
Oh,
but
God.
but why? Why are they outside at a campfire? They have a fucking fully functional starship.
They just fixed it.
Yeah, but it's like something happened on, and I'll bring this back up again. It's like something happens on TNG, and he calls all the senior staff to 10 forward, or to the whatever the hell is the thing, the room in the back where they all sit together.
10 forward, yeah. Or no, the conference room.
The conference room. They go back to the conference room, right? Except instead, Picard says all senior staff to the transporter pod, and then they go to the transporter room and they beam down to like fucking Alpha Centauri 6 to talk.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like the stupid, like, why would you do that? Just stay you're there.
Yeah.
Why would you have a fire outside? You have a fully functional ship with temperature controls and perfection. Just so they can tell a campfire story about legends and gods. That's the only reason. And I get real annoyed writing wise when you put people in places for no reason, only to set a mood. Because again, it's telling the audience that you guys watching this are stupid. So we're going to put them around a campfire because you guys understand campfire stories, and that's where you tell your spooky stories and ancient legends. So we're going to put these guys around there so it really hits home, even though this is the stupidest thing to do in terms of structure and flow. Elnor then goes on to say, I still don't like you.
Mm-hmm.
They all become buddies. Oh God, it's the end of the world. Mm-hmm. I've realized that the actor who plays Romulan buddy guy here only literally has one facial expression of, I'm always fucking confused. I don't know if he has Bell palsy. I don't know if he has a condition. I don't know if he got tased, but his face is always like just one step away from drooling out of the mouth. He's got one look. And the more I see him, the more I'm like, I don't know what direction they gave you, but
none.
A storm starts to happen. They're still outside, mind you. The ship automatically puts down its blast shields. So in my theory, in my perfect world, they're all dead. And the ship says, fuck you, I'm leaving. And leaves them there. And I want a series with just a ship now, because fuck the rest of this. So then they pan up. And remember, this is all taking place, I guess, over the span of a couple of days, because it's nighttime there now, mm-hmm. because of the storm or something's happening. And they cut to the Romulans still in warp. And I don't know how much time has elapsed. So I'm assuming that the Romulans are now have been in space for 2 or 3 days.
It's sort of, timey-wimey.
They cut to the new warbirds, which looks like a toothbrush.
Oh, they look like shit.
It looks like a toothbrush put in one of those travel holders that's just being stuck on a wall. They're real bad, and I'll talk about them a little more in depth a little bit later. But we see Commodore O for a little bit in a very large set on the Romulan ship, which again is very different than all other Romulan ships in the past. So the Romulans have a very strange layout to their ships. And that was accidental in terms of TOS because they had to reuse sets, but they needed to have something that looked totally different from the Federation, right?
Yeah.
We're just meeting this new race. So I remember, if I remember correctly, when they did it in TOS, no one really had a station, and they all shared like around this kind of circular pod thing in the middle.
Oh yeah.
You remember remember how everyone was kind of around there equally? And that's how they tended to depict the Romulans going forward for a long time. Their ships were laid out very differently because it would make sense that their command structure is very different. And how they do things is very different. It wasn't until really TNG and we started seeing Romulans more where it became a little bit more traditional with the seats and stuff. But it was always shifting. In Enterprise, they were different locations, and it was always changed. In this one, it looks just like the reset dressing of the NX Enterprise with green. So again, it's a fact of losing identity of races, making everyone look and act and feel exactly the same, right? The Romulans and TOS were really cool because we didn't know anything about them at the time. Remember, a couple hundred years ago, we didn't know anything about them. And remember, Spock even speculated, I think they might be an offshoot of the Vulcan people.
Yes.
Because I just watched that episode the other day. It was just, I popped it on. I didn't even realize what it was. But he says, I believe, if I'm correct, that the Romulans are an offshoot of the Vulcan people. And he says so because his big line in that episode is, we need to attack first. We need to wipe these people out. And it's a very un-Spock thing to say in TOS because he's the logical one. Because he's going after McCoy. Remember, McCoy's like, hey, why don't we just talk to these people? Why don't we ask them what's up? And then Spock's like, we need to blow them up. And McCoy's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? What's going on? And so now they're just generic space aliens that look everything like everyone else.
They're space elves,
They're space elves. We're back on the ship now inside morning time, apparently. And Romulan boy explains the situation to the crew around their picnic table from your local park. And they do what this fucking show loves to do. Explain what's going to happen in a breakdown scene and then cut it with what's actually happening in the future.
How are we going to get these explosives into
I think it's so absolutely lazy and disrespectful to your audience as a writer to have that sort of scene. Like, I can't remember the name of the film, but a bunch of films do this where you set up a plan, right? Or a heist.
Yeah.
And you say what you're going to do and you lay it out and then they go and do it. Right. Or they show something, interstitials of them training for it or do it.
Every heist movie does it. Yeah.
Every heist movie does something like that. And then you get the Ocean's 11 kind of thing where they do the heist, they say the heist. And then as they're saying the plan is unfolding in the future. Right. And Ocean's 11, the remake, really played on that. And I think everyone since has just copied that and said, it's just easier this way for the audience. Here's the heist. Here's how we're going to do it. And as we're telling you the heist, we're actually doing it in the future, which to me loses the impact of the heist itself.
A little bit.
Right. Because as an audience member, I'm like, oh, this, okay. Because he lays out, interestingly enough, the plan is we want to blow up the reception tower. Here are my grenades. How are you going to do it? I don't know. Well, I'm going to break in and do this, and then you're going to do that. And then Raffi says, well, what about this if this happens? Or what about the security? Or what about you can't teleport in or beam in?
I have one thing to say about it. It doesn't matter what the thing is, it's execution.
Yes.
I've had to remind myself that over and over again because there are a lot of ideas that seem bad, but if you execute them at a really high level, they work.
Yes.
And this sort of concept can work, but they're too incompetent to do it.
It works when it doesn't make you feel like you're too stupid to follow along. So the idea is that they're not giving the heist of the century.
Yeah.
Right? They're not stealing, the tiara of the Queen of England or something. You know what I mean? They're not
Yeah.
stealing. They're not doing something where they're against the odds. It's just like, hey, we need to blow up this tower. All
Yeah.
right, let's blow up this tower. I get that. Let us watch that happen because as they explain it, they've already done it when they go through this stuff. And it's dumb, right? It ends up being a bunch of meaningless shit. They hide a ceramic drone because they can't beam inside a soccer ball,
Mm-hmm.
inside a Earth human soccer ball. And when they're talking to the data clones,
Oh, you play? Yeah.
the data clone literally looks at him and goes, "Oh, you play." Like they know what fucking soccer is, even though soccer has never once been mentioned in any Star Trek series or episode as existing.
Almost every single sport apparently died in World War III.
They
So
make it a point to say sports as we know them were done after like World
baseball
War
in
III and
particular,
stuff.
like it's the basis of the entire like Cisco thing. There's an entire
Yes, that's
episode of
his thing is
DS9
he
where they
loves baseball.
they have a game against the Vulcans because the Vulcans are
Yeah, the Vulcan
assholes.
captain and his Vulcan crew. Yeah, and they beat Cisco, but Cisco still wins because they became together. And the
Because
other
because
captain's
if
like,
they
"What are
were
you
as
doing?"
superior as they thought they were, they would have never scored a single run.
Yeah. I mean,
Mhm.
and that's the idea is even in DS9, no one knows what baseball is.
Oh god, no. There's
Even Starfleet people were
the
like,
episode The Most Toys. Kivas Faja is like, this is the last existing Roger Maris baseball card,
"Yes."
and smell it.
They make it a
Bubblegum.
point to when they mention, and really they only mention baseball because of Cisco
Mostly, yeah.
is he says like, hey, they stopped playing after whatever some couple hundred years ago was the
Mhm.
last World Series, and then all sports ended. And even members of his own crew who are human don't know what baseball is, and he
Oh,
has to teach everyone, not just like, oh, I have to teach the aliens on my crew who wouldn't, legitimately know what baseball
yeah.
is. He has to
O'Brien.
teach his own people.
O'Brien doesn't fucking know.
Yeah, and they're like not good. They don't understand it.
No.
So to mention like a soccer ball
The irony
that
is
doesn't
that
even look like a future soccer ball. It literally looks like a normal soccer ball.
the irony of that one episode is the guy that plays Rom was actually a minor league baseball player. So they had him switch hits so that he'd play bad.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
But here it's stupid. So they get in because they're looking through their stuff. They confiscate their weapons. And it's like, what are we gonna do about the weapons? And what are
Mhm.
we doing about this? They hand over their weapons. They open up their bags like they're in line for Disneyland getting checked in.
Mhm.
And then Rio says, how are we going to get through there? And he does the generic Apple thing, which every cool captain has to do because it shows that you're cool and you don't care and you know everything. Because
Well,
young Kirk
in Wrath
does
of
it
Khan.
in the reboot series, remember? When he
Mhm.
sits in the captain's chair and he bites the apple. I was like,
And the entire reason he does it is because Kirk does it in Wrath of Khan,
yes. And it's
as I
and it's a
recall.
cliche in film and TV of I don't know where it came from, but I remember reading and learning about it. Like there's a
Like,
thing about like
I'm so disinterested about this, I can
yeah, I'm
just sit
so
here and eat.
disinterested in eating something about the apple itself signifies being cocky and how
Mhm.
it's a whole thing
Well,
that's
it's
really
typically
stupid.
it's the fruit of knowledge.
Yeah, it's one of those things
It's
like this
actually
guy
not, but
knows is so confident about what's going to happen that it happens. And of course it does in Kirk's case. But here in Rios's case, I thought it was going to go a little differently because as he says, how are we going to get the ceramic or whatever the drone or something hidden in? I
mhm,
knew they were going to put it in something they could get through security.
mhm,
And because he's flipping that apple about to eat it, I figured like, oh, okay, why don't you just make an apple the drone, right? It turns into something and you can walk it in. It's a little play on the idea of yeah, you're cool eating an apple, but it changes to something else. Nope,
mhm,
it's he just has the apple because he's a cool guy, and you're all children watching this show that need to be explained a character's motivation by being cool.
mhm,
It's a fucking soccer ball.
mhm. Yep.
You play is what the drone says, or the
Mhm.
synth says, and then Rios just kicks it once and goes, "Oh, I love it," and they move on. They get in. Um, it's fucking dumb. It's stupid. And then we get back to
By the way,
finally Picard.
they're
And
doing the thing from Star Wars where they have someone as a fake prisoner.
yes, exactly. It's very Star Warsy. But then we jump back to the compound where Picard. Now, this podcast has been going for a little while, and as you mentioned, this whole series about Picard, we've had very little Picard so far.
Well, except for him getting yelled at. Yeah.
Except for him getting yelled at. So he is like laying in his bed being a total asshole because Aggie breaks in and say, "I'm getting you out." And he's like, "Are you?" He's like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Well, let's go. It's a jailbreak." And he's like, "Well, where are we going to go?" He's just being like a total asshole to her. And she has to like reiterate like 2 or 3 times, like, "Hey, dummy, I'm helping you." And he's like, "Oh, I'm really stupid, Picard now. You're trying to help me."
To be fair, she did straight up murder a dude for basically no reason at this point.
Exactly. But he's just like so in his zone, like laying in this bed. I thought it was his brain thing again because he was such an asshole, just like talking with his eyes closed, like, "Yeah, you're here to do something. Oh, you're breaking. Okay. Uh-huh. Oh, you're serious."
It's like if a moody teenager wrote Picard.
Yeah, it's literally it's dumb.
Fuck you, Mom. I'm listening to my CDs.
We cut back to Dr. Soong, who finally the download is complete. I don't think he ever finds out about the eyeball thing, does he?
No, you'd think he'd notice because he remarks on, "Oh, not her beautiful golden eye."
Yeah, I thought this was going to be like the tension build up later between everyone because Soong would have found out that Aggie betrayed him and took her eye for some reason. I was like, "Oh, she's gonna find this. He's back there." I mean, you can't miss someone's eye being fucking taken out of their head. But then he pulls a data stream and he sees that the Romulan didn't kill her.
It was Golden
Soji's sister did.
Yeah.
Stabs her in the eye, and he goes, "Oh God. Oh God. Well, Aggie just took this lady's eyeball. You should be mad at her, but you're an idiot." But then he becomes like the good guy now. Because the next scene is them trying to remember, we spent so much time building the heist up and talking about the heist and how the heist is going to work out. The heist starts going according to plan. Boom, boom, boom. They're going to throw some things. The drone goes in and they're going to blow it up. And then Soji just grabs it out of the sky later on. So this entire heist thing
fucking
was
pointless.
an utter goddamn failure. It was stupid. So
Shaka when the walls fell.
Exactly. So then we cut back to Picard and Aggie, who remember were at the compound. Remember, Rios and the rest of them are in the middle of their heist at the compound. The next scene after Aggie breaks Picard out, which is happening as the people are at the compound or right at the compound, is them back at Rios' ship. They never passed each other. Pretty sure there's only one way back and forth that we've established. They didn't cross paths because they walk all the way back to wherever the fuck Rios' ship. And they say, "Hey, they're not here. They must have gone to do something." How do they never cross paths?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like that is happening at the same time, right? Because right before we get to Aggie, it's them presenting the Romulan entering, doing that soccer ball. I play soccer too. And Aggie is breaking Picard out. They would have walked right past each other, if not at the compound entrance. On the way, it's all stupid because in relation of where everything is, nothing is given.
Hell, how did they get through all of the fucking androids that they had?
How did they get through all the androids? It's not explained how they broke out. It's just Aggie says, "Come with me. We're out of here." And they leave. They just leave. And so they go back to the ship, which is now fixed. And Picard yells at Aggie to go and tell me about everything. And apparently now Aggie knows everything about the ship because she pulls up the sensor report and says 210 warbirds are 6 minutes, 7 minutes away.
Yeah.
I don't know how she knows how to do this. Characters in this show know how to do things when they need to know how to do things and then totally forget later.
Yep, it's lazy writing.
It's really lazy because Aggie's not a navigator. She's been established as a scientist.
Shouldn't they have all the holograms back?
Yes, we should have all the holograms back. They know the holograms exist, all of them, because they've talked to them. They've all talked to them.
Mhm.
They should activate the navigational hologram. They should activate the tactical. They should activate Rios himself because he's a goddamn hologram too, probably. They should just they have a whole crew,
Mhm.
if they need it, of Rios's. They never touch them. They
Nope.
never even question it. Picard just yells at Aggie to do the job of literally what they had something else for, a hologram.
Mhm.
And then the show goes off the rails again because we bring up that little MacGuffin that we had earlier that
Oh god,
breaks
yeah.
Star Trek all over again.
She's like, why don't we do the Picard maneuver?
So they have this nice little scene of what the fuck are we gonna do? We have about 20 minutes left in this episode. What are we gonna do? Picard says, I don't know. Starfleet, I called them, but the fleet's not going to get here in time, which it's Star Trek. Fleets never get there in time.
No.
So we got to hold them off somehow. That's fine. It's whatever. Come accustomed to it. Aggie says, well, what about the Picard maneuver, right? Didn't you do it with the Enterprise? The only time the Enterprise is fucking mentioned in this entire series is right here.
Yes.
Didn't you do it on the Enterprise?
No, that was the Stargazer.
Picard is famous.
Mhm.
Yes. I am absolutely 100% positive.
Well,
what he has done on the Stargazer and what he has
brings
done
it
on
up
the Enterprise.
She brings it up because oh, sorry.
No, go for it.
She brings it up because if we make it through this, they'll probably call it the Picard maneuver. Oh wait, you already have something named the Picard maneuver after you.
And she gets it wrong because she says, the Enterprise did it, and he's like, no, it was the Stargazer, and it was a long time ago. I understand Rios understanding what the Picard maneuver is.
Yeah.
I understand Raffi understanding what the Picard maneuver. These people were Starfleet officers. You go through Starfleet Academy. I'm sure there's a course on Picard of what he's done. And especially in tactical trainings, the maneuvers, right?
Oh, yeah.
Everyone knows what the Picard maneuver is. Probably the Riker maneuver is talked about. All this shit. Aggie is a scientist who never went to Starfleet Academy, who's never flown in a ship before. It's stated. And just does science. For her to bring it up, of all people, makes no sense. Oh, you did it on the Enterprise. It's dumb.
Yep.
It gets dumber when she is saying, well, we need to figure out something because let's do a Picard maneuver. And he's like, that would be impossible. That was a one-time thing with one ship, and there's 210 ships. And he's like, and then he starts thinking, logically starts thinking like a crazy person, but he still starts thinking we'd need like a holographic field, and we'd need projectors, and like there's no, essentially saying how impossible it would be. Right? It's like, hey, look, this was like one Ferengi ship, and I fucking got lucky.
Yeah.
Right? If they shot anywhere else, I'd be dead. I got lucky. It's a last-ditch maneuver. He's like, you would need the calculations, and the holographic things are astronomical. And she starts thinking real hard and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, well, you mean like this? And then she holds up the space MacGuffin thing they have.
The whiteout tape dispenser.
The whiteout tape dispenser. And because she thought about how to do the Picard maneuver, one of those things. 100 of her faces show up. And it's like, oh, we can do it like this. And I'm like, okay, that's stupid in terms of breaking the entire universe because of this device that is now going to be used twice in one episode, be forgotten about, and has never been set up yet to save the world. And so in my head, I'm like, okay, maybe they'll do like this. It's not the Picard moon. They'll make a bunch of fake holograms, something that's been done before in various forms to try to bluff the Romulans out.
Yeah.
Right. The Federation's not going to get here in time. Well, maybe you could copy the ship or copy a bunch of different ships. It's unlimited. So why wouldn't you copy?
It's funny you
the
just
Federation
said that.
fleet, right?
Yeah.
She knows what starships are. Why wouldn't you copy a dozen fucking sovereign class ships and be like, okay, that might actually scare the Romulans if they can't scan it to fake it, right?
Well,
it would at least have some tension.
The reason why they won't clone any sovereign class starships is because then Secret Hideout doesn't get any money.
Exactly. So I figured, okay, it's going to be some sort of ruse to at least buy time, right? They've bluffed the Romulans before. Picard has bluffed the Romulans before. He's bluffed people before. It's something he has done. Calculated bluffs.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. Finally, he sits down in the captain's chair and he takes off on the ship.
He's
And
like, I'll figure it out.
He's like, I'll figure it out. He's like, I've watched Rios enough. I hope I can figure this out. It's stupid.
Mm-hmm.
It's cockamamie. It's like me playing War Thunder a bunch
Mm-hmm.
and then being like, you know what? I think I can fly this old World War II Mustang just fine.
Oh, yeah.
I've watched enough YouTube videos on naval destroyers that I can now pilot a naval destroyer out of dock. It's fucking stupid. Okay,
I'm basically Anakin Skywalker.
it's Anakin Skywalker who's Picard now.
Let's do a loop. That seems like fun.
And right before they take off, Aggie says, "Make it so." She does. How would she know what Picard would say?
I wanted to stab the TV at that point.
How would she know? Like, I talked about this a little just a second ago about how you would learn about the Picard maneuver. You would learn about these important things. How would anyone know "make it so" is Picard's thing when he has never said it yet to her?
No.
And only
Never.
his bridge crew would know how he tells you to go, to engage or to make it so or something like that. Literally, even people on the Enterprise would have known what he says.
Mm-hmm.
But Aggie just says, "Make it so." Oh, God. Oh, God, it was so bad. So then we cut back to the spires that have built the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where the heist goes wrong. And Soji catches the bomb. And Soong is like, "I'm a good guy, I guess, now. And all you guys need to stop. And some of you are yellow. And some of you are not yellow. Some of you are African American. Some of you are African American and yellow.
Mm-hmm.
Gold." Like, I'm like, what the fuck is happening? I don't know. None of this makes any sense. The heist goes bad. Soji's sister is deactivated.
No button in the back, huh?
No button in the back, just a little device to deactivate her. And I have questions because she is never brought up or mentioned again for the rest of this episode.
No.
Was she bad because the vision made her bad, like Aggie? Was she always bad? What the fuck is the point? They've set up so many things in this finale leading here that just get ignored totally.
Mm-hmm.
This Soji sister is now a non-issue for the rest of this episode. She gets
Seems
shut
to be a
down.
running theme, huh?
Yeah, they set something up. They immediately answer the question. They move on. He shut Soji's sister down in front of the other synths.
And none of
He
them
shuts her
react.
down in front of everyone. And all of these have already pledged their allegiance to help her blow up whatever the fuck. And they just look at Soong and go, whatever.
Well, they're in the process of summoning an elder god.
Yeah, I guess. And then, remember, he has just shut off their leader. Soong has.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't attacked him. They haven't done anything. Raffi then whistles. Romulan boy jumps in and starts punching people in the face. Elnor starts punching people in the face. Rios gets his soccer ball ready. Everyone is now fighting, even though 10 seconds ago, when he shut down their leader, they didn't do anything.
There's also the point that they would get like just straight up fucking mulched by these fucking androids.
They've already been shown to be Data-like superhuman androids.
Yeah.
Romulan boy and Elnor punch these fuckers in the face. Their hands don't hurt, and they all go down like sacks of potatoes. Remember when Data would get punched by Klingons or by anyone else, and they would like break their hand?
There's that entire fucking bit in that one episode where he picks a fight with Data. Oh God.
Yes, that's like a running theme of whenever a Klingon shows up, they want to test their mettle against Data.
There's also that one episode where Data is acting really fishy and the crew doesn't remember what just happened. And they find out that Worf had like his wrist broken or something. And they're like, well, the only person on the crew strong enough to do that would be Data. So
could have been Data. Because it wasn't
Data, but still.
That's the idea, is like that's the only person strong enough to break his arm.
Yeah.
Like it's a running theme that Data is literally this just powerhouse in
Physical
this
god.
physical like monster in this unassuming robot or person body, right? He's not ripped. He's just a regular person that's in an android body, right? He's not super tall, but whenever a Klingon would punch him, they would break their wrist, or he would like pick. Remember when he picked Wesley up out of the holographic
Yeah,
water in the
one
very
hand.
first episode with one hand and that creepy look on his face? Ugh. He would like throw rocks. When shit goes down, they'd be like Data, and he would pick things up with like Worf and stuff.
He's
Like,
practically like augment level strength.
I don't think anybody in TNG, when encountered Data, ever put him on his ass.
I can't think of a single time.
I remember him going down by being shut down, like
Or like hitting
environmental or
an electrical
something.
thing or
Yeah,
something.
like something technological affects him, but like another person,
Just beating
I've
the shit out
never
of him.
seen Data go down on his ass. I've never seen him flinch. I've never seen him take a punch and even register it. But here, fucking Elnor and Romulan, dude, two regular people. Sure, they're trained, but they're just regular elves.
Mhm.
Just start fucking cold cocking people and taking down synths left and right. And then the other synths are just looking at Soji now. They're not doing anything.
No.
My whole point of this is that once Soong shuts down their leader, couldn't he just be like, hey guys, come on? And they walk over and just shut it and just blow it up by throwing it at it?
Yeah.
Like, there's no point, because when they do throw it, and like Rios is like, Soji, get out of the way, get out of the way. I'm like, what do you mean get out of the way?
Who cares?
She isn't the transmitter. You have a drone that's going to fly anyways. You can throw it any fucking direction you want. Why even throw it if it flies? Just open your stupid ball and let it go up in the air. We have drones today where you can do that. Just take off and go. She doesn't know what it is. And she just fucking catches it. But then we cut back again, and now Picard is in space.
Mm-hmm.
And Aggie is just hanging out, been like, what's going on? What's the plan?
She's asking him questions and
She's
not
asking
answering.
Picard legitimate questions like, okay, we're up here. What are we going to do? You have a plan. You're the smart one. And she's being ignored, and she's like twiddling her thumbs like nervously. No one has activated the holograms yet because they're all idiots.
Mm-hmm.
And she's just sitting there. What are we going to do? And then Picard is like, would you shut the fuck up? I'm literally using all my brain power to keep this ship from crashing.
Because this is the first time I've flown in like 20 or 30 years.
Buddy, you're not stupid, Picard. You're in space. You're not going to crash into a fucking thing. You've already left the atmosphere.
Yeah, that was the note I made.
And I'm just like, why would crash? I would understand saying crash if you're still on the planet trying to get off, but you're wickedly high in orbit. Flying around, and the ship looks normal. It wobbles a little bit. And so he's like, I'm really flying. I was like, Picard, Aggie, both of you have interacted with all of the holograms here. You have a nav pilot. You've talked to him in the first couple episodes. You have holograms. Have them help you. Staff the crew. If you're going to fight these Romulans, at least activate the tactical one. Something. Like, I'm sure Aggie can help at science or something for scans, whatever. But like, you have a backup crew. Do something with them. But no, we don't. We cut back to the planet. And Romulan boys caught. Rios throws a thing. They catch it. And it's super stupid. The whole scene is stupid because he lets go of the drone and it flies right into Soji's hand. And she looks at it very surprised that she caught something when it wouldn't have done anything over there. The tower was wicked above them. Why is she even in the way of it? She sees what it is, throws it in the air, and it blows up. I thought she went good in that second, right? I thought, oh, she realized what they're trying to do. The whole point of their mission was literally told to us, we got to throw these fucking grenades at the tower. Mind you, the grenades never get brought up again.
No.
This isn't a grenade; it's some fucking drone. So
Hmm.
I'm not sure. The entire point of him going back to the cube to get these grenades again, it's another plot point in the episode that's just dropped. It's just dropped. She sees it and she throws it in the air. I'm like, oh, cool. She's gone good. This is the moment where everyone gets back on track and she's throwing it at the receiver.
Well,
No,
no,
she
it
just
was
threw it in
beeping.
the air.
It was beeping, so
Yeah, it was beeping. So she threw
clearly.
it in the air and it blew up. So everyone here is a fucking idiot. So she goes back to playing Jenga,
Hmm.
virtual Jenga, and I'm not sure what's happening. None of that's explained.
Iron Man.
And then we cut back to the board cube, and I'm like, okay, it's a cool cut because we cut back to the board cube, and it's the sister, and it's Rios' ship, and it turns into like a vector graphics, like the Atari vector graphics or the Vectrex, and it goes green, and then it cuts into like the Romulan like warbird, the bird thing that they have on their crest, and she's standing behind it. I'm like, oh, cool, there's where your money went. Nice little transition, and it's not the crest, but like their version of the L-Cars menu system that they also have. Their hologram display is shaped in the
Similar to the
warbird pattern.
Raptor.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, that's neat. That's a neat thing to do. So she's trying to get the shit back online, but 7 of 9 finds her. And then I just wrote down here, we get a sexy lady fight. We just get two very attractive ladies hitting each other for no reason. It's not explained how 7 finds her. They don't talk about that. She just disarms her. Then they get
Yeah.
into fisticuffs and fight.
The problem is, why wouldn't she just shoot him? Why wouldn't 7 just shoot her?
7 has already explained that she just shoots. That's
Yeah.
literally how we're introduced to her when she comes in blasting.
You have no moral center left. Why
She's
not
already
just shoot?
says as a
You don't
ranger,
need to
like,
disarm her. Just
yeah,
shoot
she's
her.
already says, I don't fucking care.
You have her
She
ass dead to
already
rights.
knows. She already knows that this bitch killed Hugh.
Yeah.
That this person is part of the team that literally killed Icheb. Any
Yeah.
rational person would walk. I know they had this conversation of, with Rios later, you get this thing about killing. It's stupid. But at this point, what the fuck are you doing? You walk in there, you go, oh shit, bow straight to the head.
Mm-hmm.
It would be more impactful because then you set up something for the brother later on, right? He realizes maybe he goes good, right, to help them because
There's
he's
a
trying
point
to
where
help
he
blow the
stops
thing.
mattering completely.
Oh no, he stops mattering and gets dropped as well with no explanation. But
Yeah.
I'm saying, like, if she kills her with just a bullet to the head, the
Yeah.
Romulan boy is at least in part going good. And you mentioned this early on within like episode 1 or 2.
Yeah, episode
You're
1 and
like,
2, like heel face turn. Yeah.
you're like, he's gonna face turn sometime. And we speculated this because he was like on the poster, right?
Oh
As
yeah.
is not like usually when you're on a poster and you're the bad guy, you're
Yeah.
above everyone,
Mm-hmm.
right? You have this larger presence because
Ominously.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're the ominous antagonist. He was just hanging out on the side. Like when we saw Picard poster, we thought he was part of the crew, right?
Mhm.
It was that sort of thing.
Like at
So we
some
know
point
if,
he's going to join. Yeah.
yeah, we know the face turn was happening, and we were starting to see it at least because they're a team here. So if
Mhm.
you kill her, if 7 kills or blasts her off, then you have a tension to build up later, or
Yeah.
maybe you have a reason to keep him as a bad guy, right? You have something going on.
Yeah.
But no, they get to their little lady fight. And as we're doing this, we're cutting between everyone. And at this point, everyone is fighting, right? They're fighting on the ground. They're fighting at the board cube. Picard is fighting to keep his ship afloat and not crash.
Because did we already talk about them deploying the little like hologram trick or whatever?
No, because this is where it happens. So we
Okay.
cut back to space, and I have it here as the Romulans show up.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
and Commodore O is there, and she says, "While we're here, target the people, blow up the fucking planet from the sky." And then all the synths look up, and apparently
Eradication pattern number 6 or whatever.
number
Yeah.
6, and the Romulans have warped in. They're in space. They're not in the atmosphere. They're not on the planet. They're in space with Picard, way the fuck up there. All the synths look up, and they see all the ships in the sky. That's not how any of this works. That you don't look up at the night sky and see the International Space Station the size of fucking the moon,
Well, I
right?
mean, their eyes are like telescopes,
I
man.
guess. But everyone looks up and you see like full on shapes of warbirds, like they look like they're in the atmosphere, but they're wicked high in space. And I'm like, just a basic understanding of that's not how any of this works, unless these warbirds are the fucking size of the moon, and they're not.
No.
So she sees them. She's like, oh God, release the fucking plants. We got 15 of them.
Mhm.
Remember, the plants we've never been explained.
Nope.
They've never been taught how they were created. Soji's sister just says, we have 15 more of these plants, even though they have the MacGuffin device that can create more plants if they need to, because it fixes everything. Again,
Or
it
does
breaks
it?
everything because now Soji's sister says, well, we have about 15 more. Is that enough? And then remember last episode, they said, I don't think that's enough. Then her response should have been, okay, let me create 50,000 more.
Mhm.
I
That would
can
have,
do it by thinking about it. You see it? Do you see the problem that this device introduces, even going back and forward? It's like it's the stupidest thing. They said,
it
hey, uh, the gods are coming and they're going
oh,
to destroy us.
I just thought
Okay,
of
I
something.
have this device. Why don't I just create 800 ships in space?
It
Okay, fuck you, Romulans.
it's Imagination Land, the device.
Yes, it
You remember
is.
that episode of South
Yes,
Park?
it's South Park. It's Imagination Land device, and it breaks
If you can
everything
imagine it,
because
it's real.
you have a problem within these last couple episodes, and you can just say, well, why don't you just use the device? Oh my God,
Do the thing.
there's 200 Romulans coming, guys. What do? We don't have enough plants. Oh, I have this device that makes up anything I believe in. So let me make believe 8,000 more plants. And then Picard should go, well, I have one better. And then it would be stupid and fan service. He goes up, I've got one better for you. And then he just imagines 1,000 Enterprise Sovereign classes. Or he literally, if you want to just like stroke the dick off of every like Star Trek writer that sucks or fan fiction guy,
Mhm.
he just says, I have one better for you. And then he just imagines every iteration of the Enterprise ever. And you just got boom, there's the D, and
The
boom,
B
there's
and the
the
C.
E, there's the B, there's the C, there's the A, there's the original, there's the fucking J, there's whatever, there's Archer
Yeah.
ship, and they're all manned by crews, and it's all fucking, it's like a Doctor Who episode where all the doctors meet. I mean, it's just like stock footage from every other series, and they're like, Archer here, and they take like cutscenes in like a video game, or
That
like they just use that like at best of both worlds when they all meet and stuff. It's
that
like,
actually happens in that quest that I was talking about in Star Trek
yes,
Online.
like this is stuff that happens in like video game form and all this stuff. Like, just do that. I feel like if you're going to be this stupid and have this sort of MacGuffin. So they show up. The Borg cube is worthless for the rest of this episode. Seven's done for the rest of this episode
Well, no,
because Seven kills.
this is Sparta kicks
Oh yeah, this is
incest
Sparta
sister
kicks
down there.
the sister over the edge, and then disappears till the very end.
This is for Hugh.
And the way it's cut and she says it's really weird because it does.
And
It's like, this is Sparta,
I had to stop and laugh at that.
and it
It's
was
so
like an
bad.
ADR. It was clearly an ADR thing because it was added in. I think originally it was her just saying like a line like, well, fuck you, and kicking her, right? Like
Mhm.
that would have been normal. But then because they show her falling and it's an ADR line of Seven saying, this is for Hugh real fast, but it's not on her face, right? This is Sparta line, you're looking at him and he says it as he's kicking, right? Because that's the point of the scene. Like the point of the scene here should have been, this is for Hugh, I kick you, but it's literally already focused on the Romulan girl when she says, this is for Hugh real fast. Like she can't hear you. She's already dying. It's dumb. So Seven is now gone from the episode. We cut to space, and these giant orchids are fucking now massive, and clearly where all the budget is. And then I have just here in all caps, release the plants, and then this. Yeah, I wrote here. This is for Hugh. Episode. This is an episode of one-liners at this point. And this becomes a Star Wars fight. And I mean that in the sense of modern Star Wars, like the new trilogy and the 90s trilogy, in that let's put so much stuff on the screen that you can't see what the fuck is happening.
To be fair, the Transformers movies were like that. It was just
Yes.
shifting metal.
Yeah, and it
And
became a thing like,
Kurtzman's
let's
responsible for those.
just let's just put so much on the screen that your eyes can't pay attention to anything, so that you can't make a decision about anything. You just think it's cool because people think
Look
it's
at all
cool
this
when a lot
stuff.
of shit is happening. And as this happens, Romulans start shooting. The plants take up the whole screen. You can't see a single Romulan ship. You can't see Picard ship. All you see is just like red fabric being waved in the wind.
Yep.
It's just so much going on that it's just it hurts your fucking head. The Romulans are now in fighter craft apparently. Apparently they're not all warbirds. They're stationary shooting.
Oh no,
Some are moving
they're all
around.
exactly the same ship.
They're all, and this is gonna, and I'll talk about this later in really annoyed fashion, but they're all the same ship except the main flagship. Fine, whatever. But it's cheesy, but they're all the same ship flying around. I think there's two models. There's one with the wings extended that don't move and they just shoot, and there's like little shuttle pods that are flying around and shooting. Picard starts flying around, never fires a shot. He's just flying. They're trying to figure out what the fuck to do. They don't know what's going on.
The Romulans actually figure out the entire little like mirror thing instantly. Yeah. Like it doesn't work. What was the point?
Yeah, and he goes into this like thing about the mirrors and how it would never work and these old ancient things.
And doesn't.
And she goes, I know how it goes. And this is a scene where she copies her face a dozen times, and it's fucking scary as all fuck.
Oh God.
Really badly done. And so he talks to Soji, says one more time, I'm going to show you, make a choice because I'm going to give my life. So he pulls up to the front of the line. All the plants are dead. He parks his ship. Like they're going to fucking care. And Commodore O says the only normal thing in this whole episode. And he's like, hey, there's a ship there. And she's like, the fuck do I care? Bomb the goddamn planet. Right? Bomb the planet. It's the only time we see another Romulan. And it's just some dude. Because like, remember, Commodore O is the only Romulan really we've seen in this fight on a ship. We haven't seen any crews. We haven't seen anything. Just Commodore standing by herself in a giant empty room. So she says, blow him up. And then he says, Aggie, do it now. And she fucking hits a button on it like it's a goddamn joystick controller. Even though Rios had to have it in his hand. No one knows how to use this thing. And so ships start showing up. And I'm like, oh, this is interesting.
They're duplicates of the ship they're on.
They're duplicates of Rios' ship. And I'm like, oh, okay. I guess this is not what I would have done, but they're holograms, so who the fuck cares, right? You're just trying to buy some time. So they all show up. Romulans go, oh, fuck, there's a bunch of ships. Granted, the only normal people in this is literally is Commodore O. She's like the only sane person who I now at this point want to win because she's the only one making a goddamn sense. She sees all the ships and the guy goes, what do we do? And she goes, fuck, now we have to do something. Target the vessels and open fire, right? We're gonna fight this.
We have enough shots.
We have enough shots. We're gonna take these out. They're not big ships. We can still fuck them up. Normal, makes totally perfect sense. And I'm like, the ruse is over before it began. They're gonna shoot and they're gonna find out that these little hologram ships can just evaporate because they're not real. So she says, fucking blow them up. And then we realize they're all real. Because the ships start getting blown up. Explosions happen, right? They don't just like disappear. This magic MacGuffin device makes imaginary things real. So
I'm going to be honest. I watched through this scene like twice and I never paid attention to it.
I had to watch it a couple times. These ships take damage, so they're real. I don't know the logistical nightmare of this in universe. If each of these ships also now have a Picard and Aggie on them, I don't know if they're all alone and like piloted by the people. I don't know if Aggie cloned all these ships with Rios and Raffi and the rest of them on there. There's so much concern going on because if this device creates real things, if it makes your imagination true, then those people on those ships are now real. Right?
Yes.
So let's just say let's keep it simple. Let's say it's Picard and Aggie, and she says, well, I'm just going to clone this ship 100 times. Okay. That means there's 100 Picards and 100 Aggies out there. Each one's death is a life being lost now. And the philosopher in me just went nuts going, wait a second. You didn't just clone ships because they're flying and now being taken damage. You created you guys again, and you're fucking just murdering yourselves. And I had a lot of concerns. The Romulans destroy everyone. Picard's the only ship left.
And he
because
gets
of course
spinning.
he is. And he gets spun out because this is Tokyo Drift here, because that's what ships do. And he's holding this little knob thing. And he starts going, well, we're fucked. Yeah. Right? Let me talk to Aggie, or let me talk to Soji. We're fucked. Soji activates the device, which looks just like a fucking art exhibit at the Getty Center. It looks like the whole thing was filmed at the top level of the Getty Center, for anyone that knows what the fuck that place, the museum is.
Yes.
It literally looks like it's just on top of there.
To be fair, they actually shot there for the reboot series.
They did. Yeah. And so they open up a ring portal. The Eye of Sauron opens up above space.
And a bunch of robot tentacles start jumping out.
And then at this point, I'm just like, well, you guys are all fucked, right?
Yeah.
Because at this point, I'm like, well, the Romulans now, Commodore O is literally the good guy of this series. Mm-hmm. Because you've set her up as the bad guy. You've set Picard up as the good guy. Everything she has said so far has come true.
True. Yes.
Everything that Commodore O has fought to stop is happening.
Right now.
Right now. She was absolutely 100% justified in everything she was doing. Yes, she turned the synths on Mars and killed a bunch of people, but she was absolutely right that the synths would open a fucking space portal to robot gods. Her methods you might not like, but Commodore O is the good guy in this series. Because remember, at this point, she doesn't freak out. She doesn't turn tail and run. She says, fucking target the planet now, blow that thing up so that those things don't come through.
Mm-hmm.
The bad guys are the good guys in this entire series. Right? And so she says, target the landmass and blow the fuck out. And then the stupidest goddamn thing in the entire Star Trek universe happens at this very moment. The fleet shows up.
Oh, yeah. And they're all the exact same ship.
They are all the exact same ship that I had to stop and pause and rewind and ask myself if I'm actually seeing this fucking load of horse shit. I literally just scrawled on my notes in one page, fuck this, stupid ships, LOL, ha ha ha. I literally look like I'm scribbling fucking suicide version of the Joker here. Just ha-has all over my goddamn page.
They're all garbage design. They're all the exact same garbage design because that way they don't need to that way they're getting paid for it. It's all the same model that they made under their
it. And it looks like, and I lost my mind because it looks
200 fucking ships.
200 ships, exactly the same. Star Trek or Starfleet does not do this. There's not 200 of any ship out there.
No,
right?
Never.
There is not 200 of any ship. The way they do things is literally they'll build like 10 ships of a design. Maybe more if it's really effective, like the Miranda class that lasted forever. Or
they'll have what's it? The Excelsior class.
The Excelsior, right. A flagship, because it's a really a solid ship, but also at that point it's been around for almost 100 years.
Yeah.
So it's tried and tested. So you can imagine them being that many there, right? Because they've had the time. You have the Galaxy class only had a couple of ships during TNG at the time.
The Yamato gets blown up in that one episode with the Icon
early on. So that's it. They have the Nebula classes, which is just the Galaxy without the neck, right? Because they like to do versions of that ship.
Well, they were kit bashing everything together.
They were kit
so-
bashing, but the idea is it's just different versions of one ship to get the
Yeah.
most money out of it.
Like you
This ship,
reuse aspects of a ship to.
this ship looks like a fan ship that you would design.
It looks like a shitty one.
It doesn't. It has no style to it. It has no structure, uniformity to it that makes it look cool. It looks super generic. The front of the ship looks like the ship in Star Trek Beyond that they fly, the Franklin. It looks like the saucer section of the Franklin with a dip. The rest of the ship looks like the Vengeance from the Wrath of Khan remake.
Oh yeah.
It looks like a JJ. It looks like the Vengeance.
Well, there's
without
a
the
reason for
holes.
that. JJ and Alex are buddies.
Our buddies.
so-
It looks like the Vengeance without the holes cut in it. And when 200 of them show up, I absolutely 100% for real laughed out loud in my room and it echoed.
I
It
did
was
too.
it was a guttural laugh out loud at the stupidity of this show. I have here written down, and this will tickle you. Stupid ships, all one model. Right under it, I have everything about them looks so generic.
Yes.
At least Discovery had some style.
Eh.
And I write that because when all the ships at the Battle of the Binary Stars show up, at least there's different ships.
Yeah, I can give you that, but
I don't like them. I think they're
yeah.
all silly. But at
They don't
least
look shit.
that crew had the idea of going, hey, well, if we're going to have this big old fight, Star Trek is all about different styles of ships for different situations. This is a last ditch effort. We got to bring everyone. It's probably going to look like different ships.
Yeah.
I'll call to more recently for people listening, the last Star Wars film, Rise of Skywalker, the very end where they're losing and they say, oh, a bunch of ships are here to help. What is it? It's a ragtag fleet because it's literally, we made the call for everyone to show up, right? It's going to be big ships, little ships, medium ships. Battle of Wolf 359. Oh shit, the Borg are coming. What do we do? Literally send everything. The debris of that battle has Constitution holes. They sent fucking Oberth class ships. They literally send anything just to stand a chance.
Yeah, they had
Here,
just about everything.
here, where it's also last second, because remember, it was only last 2 episodes ago where Picard talked to the Admiral and said, I need a fleet, right? Send me a fleet. And she says, fuck it, I'll get you a fleet. She got all the same fucking generic flat ships. And I have the screenshots here and I'm just looking at these ships. It's just the Vengeance with the skinnier fucking saucer section. And it is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever seen.
You want to be really sad?
Yes, please.
Apparently, this is the same guy who's been designing ships for forever, but he's doing them to their specifications.
Oh, yeah, to what they want.
Yeah.
200 of the same ships doesn't make sense in any Star Trek ever.
To be fair, it's the same deal with the guy who does aliens in the newer Star Wars movies. Like he knows what he's doing. He can do good designs. They're just telling him
he's
to
being
make
told,
shit,
he's being told
make
to
garbage.
do a certain thing.
We don't
It
care about
looks
these things.
like garbage. I don't want it in it, and it sucks because it's canon now. Whatever the fuck this is, this has ruined Star Trek for me. Absolutely ruined Star Trek. At least
Fucking Star Trek Online cranks out better fucking designs than this.
Absolutely. At least in my head so far, I was like, hey, they haven't messed with Starfleet ships because we haven't seen them, right? They haven't messed with them. I made this talk early on when we talked about Rios' ship in like episode 1 or 2. Or 2 or 3. I was like, hey, maybe you can cut him some slack because he's an independent contractor and bought his own ship. You know what I mean? Like,
to be
we
fair,
don't know where he got it.
We did see a few over Utopia Planitia.
Yes,
but they all looked like Discovery practically.
Yes, they were all either like modifications of that, and it was 14 years ago, and it's like, okay, things were changing, whatever. But you didn't see any in action or moving around.
And they all looked like shit anyway, but
these ships
look so bad.
200 of the same ship. The logic of that is blowing my fucking mind right now.
Where did they get them?
200 fucking ships. And we find out in a second that this is the most advanced ship in all of Starfleet.
Of course it is.
Because just a few seconds later, we get what could have been a cool scene that doesn't make much sense. Riker shows up on screen to Commodore O.
You want to feel really bad about this?
Yes, please.
Apparently, like the rumor I've been hearing is that originally it was going to be the admiral that's screamed at Picard in every single scene that they've been in.
It would have made more
sense
sense
at the last second to Riker because they're like, oh no, we got to have Riker.
Fan service. Yeah. And I say, and I wrote here, it doesn't make any sense because Riker had already stated he is in reserve. He's living on a planet. He doesn't know about anything happening.
He's acting captain of this ship.
Yes, he's acting captain, but he doesn't know anything that's happening. He would have had to gone to the admiral and said, hey, I want to help with this. And she then would have had to say, oh, sure, why the fuck not? Let me put you in charge of everything now. It doesn't make any sense for him to be there. It is cool to see Riker. The uniforms finally look nice on someone.
Actually, yes.
I'm like, I haven't liked them in the little bits we've seen them, but
the bridge
when
looks like
Riker,
shit.
Yeah, when Riker shows up with his pips and his new thing and at the bridge, I'm like, oh fuck, this is a show I wanted. Give me more of this. Red alert
the bridge looks terrible because it's straight up just like a redressed Discovery bridge.
It's a redressed Discovery bridge, but like the uniforms look good. The only thing we've seen so far really is Picard in his Admiral uniform, which I don't really like. But then again, all Admiral uniforms in Star Trek kind of suck balls.
Oh, God, they were all terrible.
They were all terrible. So I cut.
DS9,
it is the best.
DS9.
It is the best Admiral uniform, but I still hate it because it's so basic.
Yeah.
But Riker looks great. I love the idea. And he says, I don't know the name of the ship because it's another weird word like the Ibn Majid or whatever.
It's a Chinese name.
Yeah, it's like just a foreign name that I just can't remember because it doesn't hit with me because I'm not from there. So it doesn't hit with me. But he says, I'm on, acting captain of the blah, 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 the most advanced warship or starship in all of the Federation, and I got 200 more right behind me.
Here's the thing about the names of like ships. It's supposed to be like famous ships, like they named them after the Magellan or the
they're famous ships from ships. Like there are series on YouTube dedicated to like tracing the lineage of
the entire
warships from like
of
ancient times to today.
Enterprise D. Being named Yamato is a twofer because it's both like a reference to an actual ship named the Yamato and also to space battleship Yamato.
Yes,
which was an anime that came out in the 70s.
And it was all stuff we would know. I don't know any of these ships.
No. None of them matter.
So, and then I write here. Okay, so they show up. The best acting is done by Riker, who
is the best.
Is literally the only one in his entire series who is acting like his character.
God.
100% the only character who is acting like themselves are Commodore O. She has at least been consistent. And Riker. He is acting like he never took off the uniform after TNG ended. He's got the same mannerisms. He's got that same cocky stance. He's got the quips. He's like, try me. He's like, I've got 200 ships. I'm going to fucking blow you away. And I sat there for just an instant going, this is the show I wanted.
We didn't see him perform the Riker maneuver. And by that, I mean how he sits down.
The weird way he would do that. But he's just like cocked over to one side on this one.
Like before he started acting or whatever, because he was like a mover or something, and that's why he always did it like that.
He always turned his seat like that
He always turned his seat and stepped over it.
and stepped over it. But he's like, for an instant, a split second, we get like the show that I dreamed of and like fans would have wanted. Like, just give
Mhm.
Riker the Titan and let him explore.
Yeah.
Just let them continue TNG. Even if it's 14 years later, like today, he still would have been captain. We talked about it in his episode. I'm like, just give us that. Give us Star Trek exploring and discovering life and making connections to like the real world in subtle ways and like uplifting us. And everything about his scene is that it's like, oh my God, here are the flashes of
What we care
Star
about.
Trek. And the Romulans are like, well, we're gonna you can stay. We'll blow you the fuck away. Get out of here. We don't recognize these people. And then Riker again does the smart thing and shows the video of Picard saying, the people
I'm
of,
requesting diplomatic whatever.
yeah, I'm here, Admiral Picard, on behalf of the Google Gobbles of planet Jeebledy Beebledy, who are requesting diplomatic help. And then Riker's all, fucking try me, bitch. I would fucking blow you out of the sky with 200 of my clone ships. And the funny thing is, for a second, I thought Aggie had just invented more ships
No. I
because
thought that too, but then I'm like, oh wait, no, these are actual ships and they all
so
came from some.
in my head for a split second before Riker shows up, I thought Aggie had created clones of Rios' ship, right? And then it cuts to the battle and we cut back and forth. And then we see these ships warp in, and I'm like, oh, fuck, they're all the same ship. Picard must have grabbed the device himself.
That thing's never relevant again in the episode.
You know what I mean? Like Picard must have grabbed the device and said, fuck it, Aggie, get out of here. This ship sucks. And warped in 200 like Federation ships that he knew about, right? And it could have been even and then it would have made more sense because it's like they're all clones. And it literally this is so structurally confusing because 2 minutes ago we saw 200 Rios' ships. And then we see 200 of the same Federation ship, and I'm like, in my head, I'm like, did they just clone more? What the fuck is happening? And then I have to ask the question. Riker talks to Picard, and it's very anticlimactic. I love everything about Riker here, except the ships that he's on, because they look like fucking
garbage.
They look like garbage. They look like, take the Sovereign design and how beautiful it is, right?
And then make it look really, really ugly.
Then just show it to your nephew in middle school and say, hey, redraw this from memory. You know what I mean? It would be sort of the same, but it'd be like stubbier, fatter, and just disproportioned.
Yeah.
The idea would be there, but it wouldn't be, and that's clearly what they wanted you to feel like, because it's looks sort of like the Sovereign.
Like, the first shot of it, I'm like, wait, is that a Sovereign class? No, it's not.
Wouldn't make sense. You're 14 years later, right? We already know the maximum life expectancy of a Federation vessel is about 15 years.
Though they'll keep them around.
They'll keep them around, but it's about 15 years of that design before it's incredibly changed and modified. Even through TNG, we saw the Enterprise get a bunch of refits internally for like stuff.
Yeah, broken
Maybe
shit.
not visually design-wise, but it was being updated all the time.
The first season episode with the Binars is them going back for like a computer holodeck refit.
A whole thing.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, it sets forth that the Enterprise itself, Kirk's Enterprise, was an anomaly because it was brought back in for decommissioning, but the ship was so popular that it became the test bed for the refits, right?
Yeah.
Because the refits they don't structurally work, because the original Constitution we talked about this a little bit ago, has a horizontal warp core.
Yes.
The refit has a vertical warp core that changes the entire design and layout of a ship, right?
Especially the engineering hull.
The whole thing changed, right? So it would actually cost you more to strip the Constitution to its frame and then build a new ship around it. It's actually cheaper to create a new ship from scratch. But and this is all semi sort of canon, but in books and stuff, that the reason the Constitution class, that ship was the only ship from that line to get an A class rating, right? Because it was so popular and had saved the universe so many times that they used it as a space frame. And the idea was Decker was going to take command and it would have become a training ship like in part 2.
Yeah.
Like where Spock is doing the cadets on the Enterprise, right? And they're doing the simulation for the Kobayashi Maru. That was the original idea. The A was going to get the US 1701A, and it was going to be a training vessel in space region, right? But it was so popular, I had to do it. Ships don't last this long. They've mentioned before 10 to 15 years before you move on. So I knew it couldn't have been the Sovereign. It has to be something new. But what we got was absolutely stupid. So Riker shows up, and I'm like, fuck, this is the best part of this series. The pips look a little buttony, but whatever, I'll live with it. Commodore O and them have a standoff. You're like, okay, we're going to get Battle of the Binary Stars level fight, right? Warbirds versus Sovereign ship, fake ships. Boom, boom, boom. Commodore says, I'll blow you up. And he says, fucking try me. And then we get cut to the space scene and every ship looks the same. And I can't tell what side is looking from what direction because it's all fucking the same ships on both sides. And we talked about this again. You made mention of this. The Romulan warbirds all are the same. They have 2 designs, little ones and big ones. So now you have this epic space battle set up and everything looks fucking copy pasted.
It's like if everybody was playing the exact same like character in a game.
It's like everyone picks the same fighter in like Mortal Kombat. It's just a bunch of fucking palette swap ninjas, but except they're not palette swapped. It's literally the same. One side is Sub-Zero, 100 of them.
Everybody's Sub-Zero.
Everybody's Sub-Zero, right? And it's fucking abhorrently bad. Abhorrently bad. And so then Riker does, again, the best acting in these things. He fucking has his own style. He goes, weapons hot, lock on. Red alert, weapons hot. I'm like, fuck, this is exactly what I want. It's Star Trek, but it's Riker's version of what he would naturally do because he was Picard, learning to be Picard. That's what he was there for, to learn from, to settle down and grow. But he still had that edge. Right.
I mean, we waited for this for like 20, 30 years.
This is what we waited for since Nemesis, where he goes on the Titan. This is what you wanted. Fucking Riker. Like, this is the most excited and legitimately like giddy that I got. He's like, red alert, weapons hot. I'm like, oh, Star Trek, things I know. And then they pan out and you get the same fucking shot that you got at the Battle of the Binary Stars when the ships warp in from them and the Klingons. Remember?
Yes.
That space in the middle with one ship, which is the Shenzhou, right? And then you have all the Federation ships on one side, all the Klingon ships on the other. Except here you have the Romulans on one side and Rios' ship in the middle. Same, it's shot for shot. And that clearly couldn't have been, a mistake because they fucking, and I get it because it's a cool visual, but they keep panning out.
Yeah.
And where the Battle of the Binary Stars was me going, oh, like I didn't give a shit about the show, but I'm like, oh, look at those designs. I'm trying to pick out ships, right? Because everything's new. I'm like, oh, that's new. Oh, that one's different. That's cool. I could dig that one. Oh, that one looks dumb. Here, it's literally a pan out for 5 seconds. And it's just like the same ship panned out. And so it just goes on and on and on. And then so you get this tense standoff. You're like, okay, we're going to fight. Picard starts having a headache. He goes into his thing. Aggie sticks him with some sort of serum that's going to stabilize him for a second, but make him die faster.
I'm going to make you mad right now.
Please.
Why can't she just use the device to fix his problem?
Why can't any of them use the device to fix the problem? They have it right there. They just used it. They just explained that it works on imagination and it can do anything.
If you can imagine his brain abnormality like going away, it'll happen.
Imagine the intermix thing just fixing itself. He doesn't know how to do it. It just fixed itself. Aggie cloned herself. They cloned 100 ships. She could have not opened up that tricorder and could have gotten the little ocarina of time and gone doodle-doo-doo-doo, and it would have fixed him. This is the fucking problem when you introduce something like this, because what we're talking about here, it ruins everything that comes after it, and it makes you question everything that came before it.
Why didn't they just use that?
So now he's dying, and he wants to talk to Soji one more time, and he's like,
just inject me with the thing. Yes, I
he's
know
like,
it'll kill me.
I'm giving you, let me give you one gift. I'm giving you my life. And the Romulans are hearing this. Riker is hearing this. And it's like an emotional speech. And I'm like, okay, cool. But all you're doing here is literally making Commodore O more right. It cuts to her, and I'm like, yeah, you're the sympathetic one here. You were right, Romulans. I'm on your side. He's like, you can change. You have the choice. I'm making this sacrifice. Mind you, this entire time, the space worm portal is open and has been.
And you got robot tentacles.
And if you haven't seen it, it's literally just the first Avengers film when it opens up and that giant wormy thing comes out and destroys New York City. It's just the same thing. Skinny worm things are there. It's been open this whole time, though.
I never played any of the Mass Effect games, but I've seen people say this is straight up Mass Effect.
Yes, it is. This has been done hundreds of times in video games and in generic sci-fi portal opening things from another dimension. But what I'm saying is, everyone listening, the portal has been open this entire time we've been talking.
And it's done nothing.
And no one has got near it. We haven't seen anything come through it just yet, but it's just sitting there
wiggling.
It's just wiggling out in space. Aggie starts crying, Picard starts dying, and then we get the scene of the space centipedes, millipedes, coming near the entrance of the portal, and it is fucking shot for shot, almost like the Chitauri entering in the Avengers.
Mm-hmm.
Was that just me? It was literally the same scene. That when that portal opens up over in space, right?
Yeah.
And the Chitauri start flowing through the worm things on New York. It's red. It's from the other side. You see worm creatures.
Yeah.
And they come through. They start to come through. They actually come through as they're talking. Mm-hmm. And it cuts back to Soji and Picard. Like, the heads of them have left the wormhole opening.
Are you familiar with the saying, good writers borrow, great writers steal?
Yes.
I think there's a corollary to that.
No,
really terrible writers steal so transparently that you hate them for it.
And so these robot Dr. Octopus tentacles from Spider-Man 2 pop out.
God,
they're in our universe now, right? Halfway through. Soji finally becomes a good guy again, hits the button, turns it off. The tentacles just go back in. They're already out.
Yeah.
They go back in. I've watched it because I have a clip here. They're halfway out, and I'm like, well, fuck, now you at least have a battle on your hands, right?
That's the thing. It's a beacon, not the thing that controls the portal.
Yes, they opened a beacon, so now their space gods know they're there.
You're past the point of no return.
Yeah, you're already screwed. So they start closing up, and what I would have done at this point, even though it's stupid, is continue to do what you're doing. Have a couple of them come out, close the portal, so now they're stuck in our universe, right? Let's say one or two. Mm-hmm. They're gods. They are synthetic robot gods that destroy the canon of Star Trek as well. But you got one. Made. Yeah, the point has been made.
On time and space.
They're here. They're the most powerful things ever. They've literally destroyed humanity or sentient, non-organic life hundreds of times before. They do this. So they're going to come back. So whatever happens from this point forward, Star Trek is fucked anyways, because these things are going to come to destroy you.
Yeah.
So what I would have done is at least leave a couple of them, one or two of them. And now, because everything you've laid out has made Commodore O 100% right. Have her team up with Riker. Now you have 400 ships fight these two worm things, right?
Yeah.
Suffer massive losses. Maybe Commodore O sacrifices her life to kill the last one.
She She
rams it like they do in Nemesis, the one Romulan girl does, right? Like you have a sacrifice that even though she's the bad guy, in her mind, she did the right thing. You destroy them, but the fleets are destroyed. So now, going forward, the Romulans and Federation are kind of on more or less towards equal footing in terms of their
God.
fleets.
I just
Then you
thought of
get to
something.
then you get to establish the fact that these robot gods are more powerful than the Borg because the Borg cubes have done this thing. And now you've destroyed all this stuff. You eked out a victory. You leave it open that these gods can return because the beacon's already been activated. That's what I would have done.
Commodore O joins Griffith from Berserk in the Did Nothing Wrong Club.
And they did nothing wrong. She didn't do anything wrong. But no, that doesn't happen. Soji hits a button. They suck back through. Remember, this tower and beacon is still there. It's still there.
Mm-hmm.
Commodore O is now happy, I guess, because they're gone. Riker is happy because you're gone. These robot destroying gods have done nothing. And then Riker says, hey, Romulans, get the fuck out of here. This is Federation space now. Because apparently you can do that. You can just claim space now.
That's
right?
more of a Romulan maneuver, actually, when you get right down to it. She tries to pull that.
She tries to pull that, and he says, like, diplomatic immunity, but it's no one's space, because if it was actually Federation space, they would have known about this fucking synth planet. But anyways.
It's so far from Federation space, as a matter of fact. That
he says, get the fuck out of here. We're going to escort you. And she's like, we don't need your help. And they all warp away.
At all. Yeah.
Right? And so they warp away, and I'm like, okay, cool, you got rid of them. And then Picard and Riker have this nice little moment. And I wrote here, I was like, this is fun, but if you're gonna have Riker back, he should have been on the Enterprise.
Yeah.
Or the Titan. Like, how do you not do that? Like, when they named the ship he was on, I was like, what the fuck ship is that?
Yeah.
How could you have fan service so much and not put Riker and just change the name of that ship to the Titan? Just leave out, this is the most advanced ship in the fleet. Who gives a fuck? Just say this is Acting Captain Riker on board the USS Titan. I've brought some friends, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Or put him on a brand new Enterprise F. Right? We don't know what the fuck has happened to the Enterprise. The E has probably been retired. There's stories you could tell there in comics or whatever, but have him showed up and like, I'm Acting Captain Riker of the Federation Starship Enterprise. I've brought some friends, and then you bring a bunch of other ships. And then when he's talking to Picard here, he's like, well, they reinstated me, and I couldn't stay out of the center. I always said I wanted the center seat of the Enterprise, even if it's just for one go. You know what I mean? Like, have something neat like that.
Yeah.
That would have been like a nice touch for this moment. It would have been stupid, but it would have been a nice touch to be like, I'm acting captain of the USS Enterprise, and everyone would have been like, finally, fucking Riker's captain of the Enterprise, exactly what it should have been. And then he talks to Picard at the end and would have been like, hey, I couldn't, the Admiral asked me to help because I was talking to you, and I couldn't resist the offer to sit in the center seat one more time, at least once. Something like that. It would have been nice. But then for all the smart things Riker has done, for how cool he was in that uniform, for how legit he looked, and I want a series of him now, he pulls a Star Trek Picard because the Romulans leave, and he goes, hey, Picard, they have a really nice speech. I actually really like it, talking about you taught me a lot and blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And then he goes, hey, Picard, I think you can handle it from here, right?
Yeah.
Picard goes, I totally can. And I'm like, okay, nice. You're going to let him be in charge of the rest of this mission. And then Riker warps away with 200 ships back home.
Yeah.
You have just saved the universe from extinction. 200 Romulan warbirds have just warped out of the sector. You have not talked to anyone on the planet yet.
Nope.
And you are leaving an old dying man alone in space.
You'd think he'd just tell like the rest of the fleet, follow and make sure they go back to Romulan space or whatever.
It would have been like, hey, a bunch of you, why don't you guys head out? I think the logical thing in TNG would have been like, you guys can handle it from here, right, Picard? And he goes, yes, I can. It's like, all right, contact me. I'll be in the area, right? And just assume orbit. You could send the rest of the ships home. But like any strategic or military fashion, you've just done the stupidest thing. You've just left. a planet that was about to be bombarded by Romulans gone, who have sensors, by the way. And now that your 200 ships have bamped, they could come right back and blow the fuck out of everyone before you have a chance to come back. And
Well,
as
you know
soon as
why that
Riker
happens,
leaves,
right?
as soon as Riker leaves,
Yeah.
Picard goes into seizure mode.
Yeah.
Clearly, he couldn't handle it. He has
No.
flashbacks of him walking through the vineyard. We see that Data scene again at the beginning.
Mhm.
And he's dead.
Yeah. He's straight up dead.
He's straight up legitimately dead. Seconds after Riker's like, "Hey, I'm out of here. I'll see you around, old man." And bamps with 200 ships, and the guy in charge is now fucking dead. And no one's like, "Hey, call them back, call Starfleet." They're gone for the rest of the episode.
Well, the first thing that happens actually is they beam down to the planet because Agnes is like all freaked out.
Yeah,
We
she's
need
like,
to
"I
get help.
can't,
We
I
need to
can't
get
do
help."
anything. I don't have a magic MacGuffin that can fix this."
Mhm.
So Soji beams him down, and Picard
Has like
dies.
a farewell with like everybody. He's like,
He does a
"Hell,
nice little farewell with his
you
new
never mattered."
crew, which angered me because Riker's right there. You know you're dying.
Yeah.
So you're going to spend it with your new crew. Soji's sad because it's like a father figure. Elnor's sad because he's like a father figure. Raffi's sad because it's, you know, her friend. And Seven's not there because she got dropped like a sack of stones.
She
Rios is
shows
just
up
in the
later.
back. Yeah, she comes back. Rios is in the back just being sad because I said I wasn't going to lose another one. And Aggie's crying.
God damn it.
Everyone's crying and it's trying to be real touching. And then he goes, "Elnor, come here." And he like touches his face. I'm like, "Buddy, this is like the second scene you've had with this fucker."
Shit.
I mean, you
Like third, but yeah.
You know Aggie better than this guy. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
He knows Seven better than this guy.
You know Seven better than this guy. So everyone cries. And then he dies.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is nice. Okay, let's have a little memorial and let it end. And then I look at the timestamp and I'm like, I've got like 15 minutes left. What the fuck is happening? That's way too long for this to go on. And then we get a scene of Seven talking to Rios, and that's where they drink the foreign beer.
And it tastes like shit, apparently.
And it tastes like shit. And she had her cry over Picard, and he had her cry. And I'm just like, there's way too much of this episode left. I don't like this. And it's just everyone saying goodbye to Picard in their own way. Rios and Seven have their moment. The butterfly comes in to change us to Raffi looking at the tower that is still up and active that just needs to be turned on for the gods to come back. It's still up there. Elnor comes down. They chit chat a little bit, and Elnor starts crying, ugly crying, and then they both start crying. And this would have been emotional, but they're both bad criers, so I couldn't feel it at all. Yeah. And then Picard wakes up. And I wrote here that the Picard data scene was really nice.
It would be.
Yes,
if they turned it.
It's really nice. And I put here, it's a shame everything leading up to it had to have been so bad. And then I wrote here, this scene is nice because Picard's dead. So you don't know the context of what is happening, right? So we sees
know
Data.
What's happening.
We know what's happening, but he doesn't. So we see Data come in and his Nemesis outfit.
Mm-hmm.
And they talk about death. And Picard, and Data's like, well, is that what you were wearing when you died? And he's like, I guess. And he's like, well, this is what I was wearing. He's wearing his
vest,
the ribbed uniform vest from Nemesis. It's really nice. The classic communicator. He's like, this is what I was remember, but I don't remember my death. It just, everything just stopped. And then Picard explains, Data's sacrifice and, why are you here? And it's a really nice scene of just like two characters talking, even though their relationship has never been this.
No.
And then he goes, Data, I love you. And Data goes, well, a part of me, because you love me, changes things and makes me feel. It's nice if these two were good friends and humans. Because I wrote here, Data feels written weird. Not bad, just weird.
This is sadly the best scene in the entire episode.
Yeah, this is a really nice scene. It sucks that we had to spend all this bullshit to get to this point. And I wrote here before it's all over, I wrote that this whole series was just created just so Picard could say goodbye to Data.
Pretty much.
And that's what saddens me because it's so dumb. Like all of this, I have pages and pages and pages of notes here of canon that it just destroyed.
Friendship ended with Geordi. Now Picard is my best friend.
We've talked about Geordi, just like all this rewrite of canon and how unnecessary this series needed to be simply for Picard to be able to say goodbye to Data. Not to save the universe, not to, like, I would have understood it if this was an insular series that didn't go and have Picard save the fucking universe from centipede gods. Because think of those things in context together in a storytelling situation. This series is about a man coming to terms and being able to say goodbye to a friend he's lost. If you pitch that to CBS, ABC, or show like that, they would go, tell me more.
Hell, okay. I think I don't.
There have been shows literally about those sorts of things. There have been these things of, I want to be able to say goodbye. They've been dramas. They've been even like horror films. Like the idea of saying goodbye is nice. It's just, why would you ruin Star Trek to get there? You could have said goodbye in so many other ways. Just this all this bullshit we've been talking for 10 weeks now about, for 10 episodes, has led to just Picard being able to say goodbye to his friend. And then they continue to talk. We find out that this is some sort of matrix, right? That this is actually Data. And we learn that Data transferred his engrams onto B4. We saw that at the end of Nemesis. We talked about at the beginning of this one and how they talked about how it didn't take, right? Even though at the end of Nemesis, B4 was humming Blue Skies, that was the intro song, which we get throughout here at the end too. But the idea was that B4 would become Data. Well, Picard says it didn't take. B4 was put away. But because Data did that, we learned that because of Maddox and the rest of them said, well, you could reconstitute him from a single positronic neuron or whatever the hell it was. And so Data is essentially living in this little box, a computer cloud storage system. And he has been for 14 plus years, ever since
he's living
Nemesis.
in a USB drive, man.
Yeah, he's been living in a USB drive, which goes against everything Data is, I guess. Because now you literally have been treating him like a machine for 20 plus years.
It gets worse. They could have built him a new body.
They had a golem there.
Mm-hmm.
Soong has him, an engram of Data right there. There is absolutely no reason for Data to be locked up in a box when Soong has created a race of Data people. You've created your race, Soong. You've used Data. You've abused him, essentially. You've kept him in a prisoner because he lives in this goddamn small little room, this gray room, so you could create his offspring, but you don't have the respect to put him in a golem body to come back when you know you could.
Want to know something real bad?
What?
The entirety of this scene is stolen from Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2.
Oh, God. It doesn't doubt. Doesn't surprise me.
I sent you the scene. It's the scene where Harry's dead and he's talking to Dumbledore in King's Cross, and it's like a completely like whited out version of King's Cross. This one's all like, everything's spray
all blacked out and spray painted out.
Yeah. But same thing.
And so the idea that Soong could have put him in there shows that everyone in this series is wrong and bad. And the bad guys were the only ones who had the actual motivation where they were correct.
Yeah.
And so, because of that conundrum of, hey, why can't you just, Data's alive, right? Why couldn't you put him in a new robot body? Data says, hey, do me a favor. When you leave and wake up, could you kill me? And I know it's twofold. It's to get away from the situation of, well, you could bring him back anytime you want now, and also because you want that emotional sting. But it just feels so cheap.
Yeah. It's possibly the cheapest character death they've ever had in Star Trek.
Like if it was written smartly and this scene happened like this and there wasn't a way to bring Data back, it would be nice. But you've already established that Soong created these Reploid things from Data's memory, positronic memories or whatever. Because remember, Maddox said you only need one neuron. So Data exists because he was a copy of B4. And that ties Maddox into this because B4 was at Maddox's lab. So Maddox probably downloaded his brain and has Data. So Data has been alive this whole time. If you wrote it smartly that there's something wrong with this code or something that you couldn't fix, and he says
or that you couldn't transfer it back,
or you didn't introduce a fucking golem in the first place, you could have said, hey, I'm suffering. This would have been the perfect opportunity to show that in death, Data became truly human, right? Not just the action of him sacrificing himself at Nemesis, but in death, he has been a prisoner and he wants to die, not because that's what humans do, but because he's in pain. Because only you would understand because you're dead. Please let me go. But here he just says, let me go because I want to experience, humanity is about death. It's about having a finite life. He doesn't want to live forever. And it's just sad, but sad in a badly written way. Please pull my plug.
Yeah. You know how people make fun of the way Kirk died on a bridge?
Yes, a bridge on Kirk.
Do you know what it originally was?
Oh, I kind of remember. It was supposed to be different.
Yeah, he just gets shot and dies.
Yeah, it was even easier, and they had to reshoot that because didn't test audience were like, that's dumb.
You brought this character back just to shoot him and like he's a red shirt? Yeah, fuck that. There's nothing to that.
And so now you've killed off Data to give us Soong. So at least Brent Spiner still has a job.
Somehow this is cheaper than that.
But this feels cheap. What this is it doesn't feel earned.
No.
They didn't earn this series leading up. This moment is legitimately well acted. It's beautiful. It's emotional. But it's not. They didn't earn it.
They got Brent Spiner in this entire thing.
But they didn't earn it.
Yeah.
And there's no reason for this to be happening. For the two reasons we've already mentioned. One, you can bring Data back even if he wants to die. And two, you have a magical imagination MacGuffin that can bring him back anytime you want anyways.
Straight up. Yeah.
Picard can just literally grab the thing and go, I want Data back. And it goes, here you go. And so Picard wakes up. And the show should have ended there with Picard being dead. It should have ended with Picard being dead, Data having that scene, and him walking into the ever after or whatever. And Data saying, I'm trapped, this is my death. I'm stuck here. Something like that.
But you knew at that point that he was going back.
Yes, he's going back.
Because they say, do I have to go? Yes, you have to go back.
And we knew he's going back because they fucking talked about that golem body. And I literally wrote here an entire page sideways. I told you. Speaking to you, even though you're not here. So he wakes up. He's fixed. And he's in a golem body. And then the show decides to leave us with one more stupidity for season 2. Because Picard is now a fucking synth. I don't want any more of this.
No, it gets dumber than that.
Oh, it does get dumber, but I don't want any more of this. You took one of the most beloved characters in science fiction, uh, a character that people like look to and say, I saw you as a father figure growing up. Like
They
I learned about right and wrong. I learned about the idea of humanity and how to respect people and treat others. I
Yeah.
learned like you taught me just literally had the goodness in people, and like I looked up to you. And now we've made you a robot in canon.
but not just any robot.
We've canonically made you a knockoff Data. Something you never would have wanted for yourself. But they rectify that.
Yeah.
They rectify that because they
That's what I was
say, well,
getting at.
we had a golem, so Picard's like, hey, what did you do to me? And then Soong says, well,
We knew you wouldn't want to get like acquainted with his brand new body,
yeah,
so we
we
made
knew
you
it
as
probably too
strong
much
as
if
a
we
normal
made you
human.
a superhuman.
Yeah.
And like we made you young, and it would be weird on you. No, fucker. It's more weird that he's a synth now that can die because he says, well, we built
We also
him.
made it so that you'd have the same lifespan you would have without the brain abnormality.
We made a cellular matrix that
Yeah.
will decay along with you. Do you know the philosophical problems that introduces now?
A million.
Just in terms of life, of what you've done to this man? Yes,
Well,
you're going
yes.
to die, Picard, in probably 20 years. In terms of Star Trek, you're probably going to die. You're going to get older. Your back's going to hurt. You're going to have trouble walking. But also, you're a fucking robot. So now you know both of those things and are going to question, why the fuck why is this happening to me?
Yeah. Well, I mean, every shitty sci-fi writer loves the singularity, don't they?
Yeah. What are you going to do? You're going to be, is he like, he's not strong like Data? Does it mean getting shot is still going to kill you? Then what's the point of having this golem thing? Then what is this golem thing made out of if that can be the case?
Bullshit. It's made out of bullshit.
Also, if you've made a bunch of clones of Data and he's super strong, we've already shown that Soji and her sister were super strong, right?
Mm-hmm.
Daj was fucking jumping all over the place. Soji ripped up a Borg cube to right way. But you can still kill a Data by stabbing him in the eyeball?
Apparently.
That didn't cross my mind because of how stupid it was, but it has now. Like, are all the rest of these synths Picardish synths that can all die and are weak? What the fuck? Data wouldn't die from a stab to the eyeball.
Hello, plastic people.
This is everything about this. Everything about this is stupid. And then for one last kick in the stupid pants. Remember, Picard's alive now. They haven't told his crew yet.
Mm-hmm.
They're also crying outside. And I'm like, fuck it. We still have 6-7 minutes left. What is happening? Picard spends the next bit talking about what am I? I'm going to get old and I still have to piss and shit and all this stupid stuff, and everyone's friendly. And then Blue Sky starts playing because they fucking love this song. And it's actually Soji singing, the actress,
Yes.
because she's a singer.
I was about to say that.
And we see Data in his little box prison in a nice suit and drinking brandy and enjoying Blue Skies, because that's probably a song he remembers from Nemesis, and he's enjoying it. And I'm just like, you've been sitting here for fucking 30 years. This is depressing. And he literally is in a paperweight little thing. It's like a little glass vase thing.
Yeah.
And they have a little memorial for him. And he's like, it's a nice scene, but it's just like stupid.
It's not earned.
And then no one tries to stop Picard. You think Soong would be like, oh, whoa. Don't do that.
Hold off on this just a minute.
Don't do this. Data's I'm his relative. You don't have a say over it. I would have the say if we're blood.
Fuck, he doesn't even contact Geordi.
He doesn't contact Geordi. Doesn't contact anyone. Aggie doesn't say anything. And then he starts pulling out 3 isolinear chips. And as he does so, Data starts dying. There's Picard in his TNG outfit, the original TNG outfit.
Mm-hmm.
He pulls an isolinear chip out. People are walking around behind him in the background like it's no fucking big deal. And then Data starts getting old.
and happily, and then he dies. Picard kills him. Doesn't contact any of Data's friends. Doesn't say, hey, Riker, contact the crew. We need to have come meet us here. That would have been the perfect time for a reunion.
Mm-hmm.
This would have been, I understand the Riker thing, whatever, but this would have been the perfect time when he says that, because Data's waiting there and he calls Riker and he says, I need a favor.
Mm-hmm.
And then you cut to them standing in the room or outside, and it's everyone in plain clothes and just normal clothes. Riker's there. Yeah. Worf's there, maybe in his gear from being an ambassador or something. Riker's in his uniform because he just fucking left. Crusher's there. Wesley's, you know what I mean? You have this nice moment.
No, that would be good.
A goodbye they did not get to have, but you selfish fuck now get to have. They knew him better than you dumb fuck. And so he takes that away from them. And then Data, poofs out of existence, which doesn't fucking matter because you have the MacGuffin that can wish him back.
Hell, the chips are still there.
You still have them. Break them. You need one positron. You still have B4. You still have all the people, Soji, all of them have neurons built from Data. He's not fucking dead if you've set up this show like this. Fuck. Then you flash forward to everyone back on the ship. And apparently they've told them that Picard is alive. But as you're doing this, everyone now has a comm badge for some fucking reason. Aggie and Rios are standing there. Aggie kisses Rios because they're in love now. I wrote here weird lovey shit. I understand that a little bit because they had some back and forth already.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't good back and forth, but they had it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they're essentially showing everyone on the ship and what's happening. It's a nice idea, right?
Yeah.
Show everyone now happy again and blossoming. And then you pan down and Seven and Raffi share a drink and then start touching hands like they're 10 years old in the playground and in love. And I'm like, this is the first time you two fucking met.
Yeah.
I'm like, if you want to have your lesbian love thing, go for it. But fucking give me some warning first and let it build.
It's just 0 to 60.
Boom, it's boom, 0 to 60. I like the scene of them drinking and talking it over because Seven has issues. Raffi used to be an alcoholic. She probably shouldn't be drinking at fucking all right now, but whatever. I like the idea of them sharing something and being like, hey, we're kind of similar. Boom. Then season 2, you can, if you want to build a relationship, fucking go for it. I don't give a fuck, but like 0 to 60, motherfucker. They're about to just bang. And they just literally, this is what? The second scene they've shared. We pan up and Picard says, hey, let's go, you two. And then Elnor walks back still in his ninja outfit because he's only got the one outfit.
Yeah.
And then Soji comes in from the left and they have a little conversation. She's like, oh, I belong out in the stars, blah, blah, blah. And then they all stand around the ship. And now apparently Seven is part of the crew because she sits down at tactical. Soji's with them. None of this makes any fucking sense except to set up a scene where they're all together.
Yeah.
And then Picard looks at the camera and just goes, engaged. Like literally the first thing we saw in the teaser for this whole series.
Yeah.
And then Rio smiles, hits a bunch of buttons, and no one engages. And then they just stand there. They stand there. And then the ship goes to warp finally. And during that, we all get the TOS era theme that flows in slightly. And I'm just like, all of this was simply to say goodbye to a character you didn't have that much of a connection with. And all of this to ruin canon in a way that makes me utterly disgusted. Like, there were some scenes in this series, looking back, that were nice. But if you look at all my notes, it's just like disappointment.
Page after page of bullshit.
Like, I can go back and just like Maps and Legends, like, ooh, evil Vulcan, so evil. Ooh, deflectors don't work that way. And then I literally have positives and I can only put like, hey, cinematography is great. And I'm like, the Commodore is a great actress. The two things that held throughout. Hey, the cinematography was cool. Commodore is great. Good. I liked her. She was my hero. End of the beginning.
Ooh, cool captain. Smoking. Ooh, Star Trek The Clone Wars. Ooh. Fucking bite me, Batman. Absolute candor. Romulan warrior nuns. Kill me. Oh, heads get lopped off. Stardust City rag. I hate the chateau set. I hate this. It stinks. Quark
It
name drop. I'm
stings.
just like,
It stings. It
like my
stings.
notes start like really nice, or they're clean, they're well written, and then it just devolves into a madman's scribbles. Little girl info dump. Shut the fuck up. I wrote here under broken pieces. It's like holographs. Which one are you? Scotty Hollow. Fuck Voyager as the collective still exists. Icheb's dead and I want to kill myself. Things got stupider. Jesus Christ. This you should literally see these notes. I may put them in a piece someday. But this last episode is literally just the scrawlings of a madman. Just fuck this show. Fuck this. Golem, I told you so. Picard is now a synth. Why the fuck is this happening to me? Just over and over, all to get to the end that wasn't earned, that ruined it.
What was even the point of having the brain problem in the first place if you're just going to bring him back in a body that's going to die anyway, like 10, 20 years from now? What's the point of all of that?
Why? Take it. He's dead. Let him die. You've done to him what Data didn't want done to him.
You could have probably cut an entire episode's worth of like just shit by taking that plot thread out.
Data wanted to die.
Mm-hmm.
Because he'd been around too fucking long and his program's probably degrading and he's going nuts. But he wanted to die to be human. And then Picard didn't want to die and became a synth. Why? You swapped the character motivations the wrong way. Could you imagine, and this is to you and to everyone listening, could you imagine go back and watch TNG on whatever streaming platform or clips on YouTube, watch it and just be like, hey, in 50 years from this time, Captain Picard is going to be a fucking robot. And just see how angry and disappointed that would make you. You'd be like, oh, really? Oh, man. Could you feel that arc out?
Yeah.
Go to episode 1, encounter at Farpoint, and be like, hey, that guy right there, that captain, he's going to be turned into a robot because he loves his best friend, Data, who he spends the next 7 years basically ignoring outright.
There's only one thing I can say about
just tell that. Just like, you could like this show, but like tell a Star Trek fan that, like, hey, did you know how this all ends is that old man becomes a synth robot because robot gods want to come and destroy the universe, but he really wants to say goodbye to this robot that's a part of his crew that he treats like any other member of his crew, and they don't share any moments with until one movie.
Fuck. What was it? All the toys or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
The most toys. He thinks Data's shuttle got blown up.
That was a major episode. He's just like, hey, we got to go, guys. He's a crew member. It sucks to lose him. But we got to go.
Maybe a handful of times where he shows only the same level of concern as any other member of his crew.
The only time they interact or hang out is in the films, and it's only in the last one, really, in Nemesis.
Yeah.
And even then, it emotionally affects Picard, but only because he lost a bridge crew officer for real this time.
Yeah.
He has never experienced loss that way.
And it was in a direct swap.
Yes, it was in a direct swap. He thought he was dying, and then he was like, oh shit, you sacrificed yourself. That was the perfect ending for Data, even though that movie wasn't good.
Yeah.
He did the most, literally Picard says, it's like the most human thing you could do. You sacrificed yourself. And then we realized that for the next 30, 40 years, he's been stuck in a fucking wine glass, suffering in a room and not even being able to remember his own death. Stuck in a fucking Nemesis era jumpsuit. Really?
That's what you did of his death. You
Mhm.
stuck him in a fucking box. You stuck him in a box. Not even his own box. Then there's two datas then. There's Data during Nemesis, and there's
Mhm.
B4 during Nemesis. Because remember, this film or this episode says that they pulled my memory engrams out of B4 before they shut them off.
Here's the question: did they make a copy, or are they still sitting there in B4?
That's the question, but even more so, does that mean there's two datas rolling around at the same time? Because if Data downloaded like a Spock thing into B4 and then saved Picard, he's alive in both places then.
Yeah, they only took away one copy.
Yes. So this isn't even the real Data anyways. This is a copy that you took. None of this makes any fucking sense. This is a bad story. You told a bad story to say goodbye. And again, the idea of saying goodbye is a good plot. It is a good story to tell that is timeless. If it didn't revolve around fucking space worms destroying the universe from humans, right? If this whole thing took place on Earth, fuck the synths going crazy, fuck the rogue stuff, and it
Fuck
was
the
just
Romulans.
fuck the Romulans, and it was just Picard on his chateau with his Romulan friends, and it was a nice dramatic show about him coming to terms with getting old and the friend that he lost.
Well, then it'd be 2 episodes long.
Or then it would have been a smartly written show that was just one season and done.
Yeah.
That would have
We
been
can't have
nice.
that.
And then during that, you have him coming to terms and reconnecting with his old crew at different points. Right? I wouldn't even written like this. I would have written something, even if you wanted to keep the idea the same, him doing the best of both world things, right? Where he gets sick at the end.
Yeah.
Right? Because that was canon up to that point, where he gets a brain disease or something.
Mm-hmm.
And Data becomes a big part of his life, that not being able to say goodbye. So you still have this, I want to say goodbye. Oh, I'm losing my mind. Remember, Geordi shows up at best of both worlds at the end, the beginning, and says, how are you doing, Captain? And then you have Picard reconnecting with his old crew during the season to learn about Data and to learn what they thought. And like, it becomes a closure, not physically, but emotionally, of coming to terms with that. And then maybe that disease finally taking you, or that you finding a cure through your search for finding out about Data and who he really was. There's so much
There's so
more
many
you could
ways.
do with this that's so much better and simpler, that doesn't
Mhm.
require any pew-pews in space or
Nope.
space caterpillars. None
Or
of it.
derailing the shit out of like established characters.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
could have had the Star Trek you wanted. You could have it
Mhm.
slow, it was simple, it was emotional, it was one long arc. You could have had your characters come back in different positions, and it still could have been surrounded about wanting to say goodbye to Data. And now that you're losing your mind, you see Data differently or something, and you come to terms with stuff. Would have been
Mhm.
beautiful. But nope, you gave us fucking magical elves and fucking Avenger space holes. Fuck you, CBS.
And grimdark shit.
Cancel
Don't forget
this.
that.
Cancel this. Cancel
My
that.
final
No
word?
more. If
Do you
you
want my
listen to
final
this
word on this?
podcast, I know only a couple hundred people listen to this stuff, but for the love of all that's holy, just cancel this. No more. You've
Sherry,
killed your
please.
main property.
Sherry, please.
Yeah, Sherry,
But
please. Your public, anyone listening that knows Sherry, stop this. Stop this. You have done more damage with one season of Picard than all of the bad episodes and films combined.
you know what really burned my ass about this episode?
Mm.
It starts with a promo for season 3 of Discovery, and I
Yeah, it
fucking
does.
hate Discovery.
It starts with her like planting a tattered flag and like it's the moon landing or some
No,
fucking
like
thing.
it's Iwo Jima or some shit.
Yeah, I'm like, come on,
Like,
knock this
I'm
off.
making a big defiant stand. Fuck you.
And then I saw an article today of like,
Why
Here's
this is
what to expect
important.
from Star Trek moving forward, and it just had like
Garbage.
Discovery on there, Section 31, and the animated show, and I'm like,
The animated show is the only one that looks like it isn't shit. That's amazing. Because when they
so
first showed it, I thought, wow, that's going to be worst. But no,
that's Star Trek Picard.
Shaka when the walls fell.
This was not worth any of this. The greatest captain is now a robot that's going to die. We now have 200. You know what? Starfleet literally now is just the military. 200 advanced fucking warships just floating around. 200 of that one class.
You know, that's the funny thing.
One class.
Like Starfleet would always use that sort of insistent terminology where we don't make warships, we make exploration ships. But
Yes.
other like species of alien would be like a Federation warship coming, or whatever.
It doesn't make any sense.
Like the Klingons would call it that, or heavy cruiser.
Yes, they had heavy cruisers is what they were. But during TNG, they were all. This is 200 stupid ships are now out there.
Yeah.
200 stupid ships, crewed, fully crewed and capable, flying out there.
They have more just because of all the ships that haven't been destroyed over time.
And I have to ask why. The Romulans have been destroyed.
The Borg are
The
fucked.
Borg aren't in your sector.
Yeah.
The Klingons are your friends. The Cardassians have been destroyed during the Dominion War. You have nothing in your quadrant that would require 200 warships. You know what it reminds me when they show up, the Federation ships in this episode? Like when the Dominion shows up in force.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It literally reminds me of that. The last time we heard about Riker, he was joining the Titan, which was an exploratory science vessel. The top of the line, right?
Yeah.
But its job was to explore, which is why he took it. Because he said the old man would never retire, so it was might as well do it. And there's a whole series of Titan books where they go and they literally explore. It's not a ship of war. It's not a battleship.
Here he is, captaining the flagship Gobbledygooker. Ah, for fuck's sake. I hate everything about this. The show made me cry, but we cry at the end because of how bad it was.
Yeah, I was in kind of the same boat.
I cried, but I don't think it was emotional cry that they wanted.
Of watching Data die? No.
I think it was of what have you done to my thing? Please don't.
You have ruined a beautiful thing.
You've retroactively made things worse. And now you have a device
that breaks the whole universe on your ship. They still have it.
You have a magic wish device.
That thing is literally the hyperspace ram from Star Wars.
You have a device that makes things in your imagination come true. If that doesn't fucking tick off and the entire queue continue to show up and zap that thing out of existence, I don't know what the fuck will. It just showed up. You just have this magic thing. And I fucking hate it. So that's Picard. And that's, you know what? It's fucking like 2:30 in the morning here. We've been going on for like 2.5, almost 3 hours of fucking Picard. It was so bad. It's so bad. So next week, no Picard. We'll be back to normal format. We'll still be as bitchy, but it won't be as long. No. I knew we were going to have to devote everything to Picard because of how fucked up it was today. I might actually have to cut this up into like 2 parts on YouTube because of how long it is. But
people seem to like our Star Trek Picard stuff. So we'll be doing more when it comes back. God help us. There's still time for it to be canceled. So
Well, I mean, Discovery will come back before that, but
Discovery will come back, but I'm not
And then I
re-upping
can
my
watch that.
subscription right now. It's lapsed. I'm going to leave it there for a little
did
bit.
you ever watch? Did you ever watch season 2 of The Orville?
No, I haven't yet.
You should. It's
I
way
know.
better.
It was really good. And I wrote about it. Remember how it was going more Star Trek-y
Yeah,
because they
but
got
season
away
2
from Fox
in particular
and the comedy.
did this exact thing and did it better.
Oh,
like,
it's done. It's
everybody
doing
saw it.
everything better.
Everybody saw it coming, but everybody's like, "Oh,
That's why that animated
what I
Star
want."
Trek show is going to be good, probably.
Mhm.
Fuck this. Fuck everything. I'm going to go to bed just fucking angry now. So thanks for watching or listening wherever you're at. If you like this episode, like, comment, subscribe. Bitch in the comments. Tell us how right we are, how wrong we are. If you're listening to us on the website, thank you. That's great. You can also subscribe to us wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. And next week, we will be back with a normal length episode where we bitch about other things outside of Star Trek, even though I have a feeling there'll be Star Trek news to talk about there as
Probably.
well. Because I'm going to start looking at reviews today and see how
yeah.
bad everyone has jumped off of Picard.
The worm has turned.
Because I told you that everyone would
yeah.
like suck its balls. Remember, I told you everyone would suck its balls the first couple episodes,
I
even
know.
if it's bad. And you're like, how could people like this? I'm like, they don't. They have to, because CBS pays their bills on their advertising. And then we got to last week, and what happened? Everyone started jumping ship and been like, oh, it's not really that good. Oh. And so I can only imagine that. I mean, I sent you a link to the jokes on Reddit threads going on already.
Oh, God.
About how Picard is a synth, which makes everyone's a synth, except for Rios. He's a hologram. He's a holographic synth. It's just people are fucking dragging us over the coals. So
Good.
Next week we'll be back to normal. We'll probably maybe talk a little more about Picard and the aftermath. But until then, we'll see you guys next time. Have a fantastic rest of your week. I am going to get violently drunk and try to forget that the season happened and that I paid $7.99 a month for it. So peace out, everyone. Bye-bye.
Temba at rest.